This video is sponsored by the book summary app, Blinkist. Discover, learn from, and refresh yourself on the world's best books. Use the link in the description and you'll receive a 7-day free trial and 40% off Blinkist premium membership. George Orwell is perhaps one of the most widely read and referenced literary figures of all time, certainly of the 20th century. Cited and mentioned by nearly every contemporary ideology and political worldview, his voice echoes down the halls of history. His insights about the power of language and technology, as well as his warnings about the manipulation of truth and the threat to totalitarianism, being relevant to rooms on both sides of the hall, left and right, transcend the walls of any one moment, movement, or ideology. Orwell was born in 1903 in Bengal, India, which, at the time, was part of the British Empire. He was born with the name Eric Arthur Blair and would only become George Orwell many years later when using the name as a pseudonym to protect his family and their reputation, as well as his own. As a child, Orwell's socioeconomic conditions were unusual. His mother, being the daughter of a wealthy man, had the attitude and tastes of someone well off. But by the time Orwell was born, his family had little money, and his father was working as a civil servant. Orwell would later refer to his upbringing as lower upper middle class, a sort of amalgamation of impoverishment and snobbery. After his family returned from India to England, where they were originally from, with the help of some family connections, Orwell was sent to an English preparatory school. Here, both his unusual temperament and his brilliance became apparent, receiving both ridicule from other students, as well as scholarships to England's leading schools, Wellington and Eton. At an early age, however, Orwell found the academic environment miserable, and so he would never go on to university. Instead, in 1922, he entered the British Imperial Service and worked as a colonial police officer. He was posted in Burma, a province of British India at the time. He also found this experience miserable and conflicting with his values. 5 years later, he would resign. Over the subsequent few years, Orwell would work several low-paying service jobs throughout Paris and London, including a part-time assistant job in a second-hand bookshop. Around this time, he would also begin writing and publishing books of his own, including Burmese Days, A Clergyman's Daughter, and Keep the Aspidistra Flying. Surely influenced by his unique upbringing and his diverse experiences across Burma, France, and London, Orwell would develop a fondness for what he referred to as ordinary people and ordinary life. Individuals who worked normal jobs, were not obsessed with material goods, had minimal education, and didn't strive for nor achieve any sort of prominence, power, or so-called greatness. In contrast, he developed a disdain for intellectuals. Ironically, of course, Orwell would soon become one, perhaps one of the most prominent intellectuals of the 20th century. Orwell's rise to prominence as an intellectual and literary figure can be largely attributed to the catalyzing experiences he had after traveling to Spain in 1936. Initially, he went to Spain as a journalist to report on the Spanish Civil War, but he soon enlisted as a volunteer in the Republican militia to fight against the fascist opposition. If you had asked me why I had joined the militia, I should have answered, to fight against fascism. And if you had asked me what I was fighting for, I should have answered, common decency, Orwell later wrote. During his time in the war, Orwell was shot in the throat and nearly killed by a sniper. Perhaps even more affecting for him, however, was what he witnessed in the coverage and portrayal of the war. Years later, he wrote, "Early in life, I had noticed that no event is ever correctly reported in a newspaper. But in Spain, for the first time, I saw newspaper reports which did not bear any relation to the facts, not even the relationship which is implied in an ordinary lie. I saw great battles reported where there had been no fighting, and complete silence where hundreds of men had been killed. I saw troops who had fought bravely, denounced as cowards and traitors, and others who had never seen a shot fired, hailed as the heroes of imaginary victories. And I saw newspapers in London retailing these lies, and eager intellectuals building emotional superstructures over events that had never happened. I saw, in fact, history being written not in terms of what happened, but of what ought to have happened, according to various party lines." Orwell's observations revealed to him a degradation of the value placed on objective truth. Objective truth was being replaced more and more by the faith in subjective truths of ideologies and political parties. I am willing to believe that history is for the most part inaccurate and biased. But what is peculiar to our own age is the abandonment of the idea that history could be truthfully written, Orwell wrote. The consequences of this, for Orwell, risk leading to totalitarianism, a form of government in which individuals lack freedom and instead are subordinate to and controlled by the central authority of the state. When there is no belief in objective truth, truth solely exists in the human mind, becoming easily malleable and manipulatable. For Orwell, this threat looms regardless of any specific ideological and political leaning, be it left or right. It is just the common basis of agreement of truth with its implication that human beings are all one species of animal that totalitarianism destroys, he wrote. During the early and mid-20th century, these consequences were unfolding and totalitarianism was spreading in Germany, Italy, Spain, the Soviet Union, as well as, in Orwell's mind, England and beyond. In response to this, Orwell believed that literature could be used to help warn against this development. It could be used to shed light on the circumstances of the world and help people fend against the increasing threat to freedom, truth, and well-being. What I have most wanted to do throughout the past 10 years is to make political writing into an art. My starting point is always a feeling of partisanship, a sense of injustice. When I sit down to write a book, I do not say to myself, I'm going to produce a work of art. I write it because there is some lie that I want to expose, some fact to which I want to draw attention, and my initial concern is to get a hearing, Orwell wrote. Though Orwell had already written and published several relatively successful books by around the year 1939, his real rise to global mainstream prominence came after the publication of his novella, Animal Farm, in 1945. And it was here that Orwell's mission to spread important ideas and warnings about the threats of the time and future times began to successfully ensue at scale. In Animal Farm, there is no real main character. Rather, the protagonist of the book is a population of anthropomorphized animals living on a farm known as Manor Farm. Each species of animal represents a different archetype or group of humans in society. One day on the farm, a pig named Old Major expresses to the other animals that they are being exploited by the humans who own the farm, and if they work together, the animals can and ought to overtake the humans and create a better future for themselves. A revolution happens, the animals take over, and a new philosophy known as animalism is established. Two pigs named Snowball and Napoleon take lead over the new conditions of the farm, which soon becomes just Napoleon after he has Snowball chased off. Though things appear to go well initially, hell soon breaks loose, and the pigs who lead the farm begin to lead with malice, selfishness, manipulation, and violence, ultimately becoming the equivalent of the humans that the animals had revolted against. The creatures outside look from pig to man, and from man to pig, and from pig to man again. But already, it was impossible to say which was which, reads the final line of the book. Broadly, Animal Farm is a thinly veiled critique of the Russian Revolution and the subsequent rule of Joseph Stalin over the Soviet Union. It showcases and warns against the fallibilities and susceptibilities of revolutionary movements and the potential threats of counter-revolutions. What arguably makes this novella so unique and important, however, is its ability to cut through the surface of any single social or political target and instead reveal timeless truths about social, political, and psychological phenomena, and to do so with animals. In the form of a fable, like that of Aesop or Disney, Orwell brings the complexities of social and political movements into an accessible, easily understandable allegorical format that can appeal to mass audiences across time and space. And that's exactly what Animal Farm did and does, selling 500,000 copies within the first year of publication, and then going on to sell millions and millions more. The same year Animal Farm was released, Orwell lost his wife while she was undergoing a routine surgery. Only a year or two later, he began to fall ill himself with tuberculosis. He would, however, muster everything he had left and work on one last book. After collapsing multiple times while writing, his science, speculative, and dystopian fiction novel, 1984, was released in 1949. In brief, 1984 focuses on a character named Winston Smith, who lives in what was once London but is now a province of the superstate of Oceania. Oceania is run by a totalitarian government known as the Party, which follows the doctrines of English socialism, or INCSOC, and is led by a dictator figure known as Big Brother. In Oceania, citizens are under constant surveillance and are ruthlessly punished for even so much as thinking thoughts that counter the party's ideological doctrines. Devices known as telescreens are put in everyone's homes, where they both consume broadcasted content and are constantly observed by the party. What are known as the thought police are also always looming, ready to arrest anyone who commits what are known as thought crimes, or simply thinking the wrong things about the party. Moreover, the party is constantly producing propaganda in the form of manipulated information, data, statistics, and language. Language is simplified and reduced in Oceania through what is known as newspeak, where words are eliminated from the vernacular in order to prevent the likelihood of nuanced critical thinking. Words are also often used in a contradictory manner in order to undermine the true nature of the things they describe. For example, labor camps are referred to as joy camps. Torture takes place in the Ministry of Love. The military is referred to as the Ministry of Peace. The department responsible for falsifying data and facts is known as the Ministry of Truth. And the slogans of Oceania are, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. All of this causes citizens to engage in what is known as doublethink, a sort of cognitive dissonance in which they both have their own perceptions and understanding of what is true, and yet they accept what they are being told by the party as true, despite any contradictions. At the beginning of the novel, Winston writes in his diary, "Down with Big Brother." By the end of the novel, the narrator concludes, referring to Winston, 2 gin-scented tears trickled down the sides of his nose. But it was all right. Everything was all right. The struggle was finished. He had won the victory over himself. He loved Big Brother. Like Animal Farm, 1984 would obtain immediate success, which Orwell was able to witness in his lifetime before dying of tuberculosis the next year in 1950. Ultimately, it is unclear how cynical Orwell truly was, But the cynical endings to his two masterworks are, arguably, not a declaration of total hopelessness, but a warning for the potential hopelessness that the future could exhibit, the future we are living in now. Since Orwell's passing, his work has only continued to become increasingly popular and culturally relevant. 1984 is likely one of the most widely read books, certainly of the dystopian speculative genre, finding itself still, 75 years later, a part of many, if not most, high school English literature classes, as well as college courses. Orwell has become one of the few writers in history to have a term created out of his work, Orwellian. Most broadly, Orwellian refers to any conditions reminiscent of Orwell's work, in which the welfare and freedom of citizens are undermined or at the risk of being undermined, typically by a central political power and ideology. But, arguably, Orwellian is not purely defined by totalitarian conditions, but by the means in which totalitarian conditions are carried out. Specifically, it refers to the intentional distortion and manipulation of language and information for the purposes of serving some ulterior power for power's sake. Like Orwell's work itself, however, this term is often misunderstood, misrepresented, or altered in service to whatever cause the user favors, often causes and ideologies that Orwell himself would likely have disagreed with. The term Orwellian can apparently be Orwellian itself. What is clear and important to note, however, is that although the Party of Oceania in 1984 originated from socialism, Orwell was not a critic of socialism. He was a critic of totalitarianism, regardless of its origins or political leaning. He was, in fact, a proponent of democratic socialism, a political democracy with a socially run, decentralized economy. Every line of serious work that I have written since 1936 has been written directly or indirectly against totalitarianism and for democratic socialism, as I understand it, Orwell wrote. Furthermore, he was anti-capitalist and believed capitalism incentivizes conditions of suffering and leads to small concentrations of power and wealth. This certainly makes those who reference Orwell in favor of capitalism and against socialism, especially and ironically Orwellian. Ultimately, regardless of whether you agree with Orwell or like his writing, there is no denying his influence, and there is no denying the value and relevance of exploring the topics and ideas that he did. His insights into how human psychology plays out in the arena of politics and how the use and control of language influences and controls the thoughts and opinions of a population is likely a timeless and immensely relevant insight to all societies, past, present, and future. His unique ability to use language to convey this insight and warn against the power and influence of language is something only a brilliant writer could even try to do. And his ability to bring incredibly complex and typically dry concepts down into the realm of mass appeal and interest perhaps has helped ensure that the developments of aspects of the world remain on a track that leads to, at the very least, a less dystopian destination. In truth, we are always susceptible to our own malice and ignorance when we aren't paying attention, individually and collectively. Tyranny is not a part of history. It is a part of humanity. Humanity is always on the brink of slipping into it, of chasing the rabbit of hope into dystopian wonderlands. Orwell realized this, that tyranny was always possible and can occur even in a society in which the intentions are noble, or in a society in which the conditions appear prosperous and democratic. Perhaps our only hope, somewhat countering Orwell's view, is realizing that, in fact, there is no ultimate objective truth, at least that we have access to, and that subjective truth is likely all there is and all there will ever be for us. We must accept this as a consequence of our condition of ignorance and limitation, our fragmented perceptions and dissenting values. But perhaps when we take this realization to the extreme, we realize that all individuals, all groups, all organizations, and all nations are fallible and wrong. There is no one idea or truth to follow or believe in. Perhaps in doing this, we burn up all the fuel of totalitarianism, and at the bottom of the tank, we find the collective realization of simple decency, the kind in which Orwell advocated for, the kind in which we arrive at mutually beneficial intersubjective truths based on humility and compassion toward the differences and malleabilities of humanity across time and space, rather than an ultimate rightness and finality right now. Of course, this is far, far easier said than done. But in the words of Orwell, when referring to the conditions of 1984, the moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
Are you crying? Are you crying? Are you crying? There's no crying. There's no crying in foosball.
You fucking cried after 3 days in the fucking holding tank. Looked like a fucking pile of wet rags at court. You should see how I showed up to court after 3 days in the box with the light on.
Please, is there anything I can do, sir? Please.
Does he look like a bitch? What?
Don't do this to my wife, man. You don't know what you're doing to my family, man.
Does he look
Sir, please don't make me sleep in jail tonight, sir, please. I'm begging. We're not criminals. They're going to make me sleep in jail.
Continue. You were saying something about best intentions?
Josh has never been arrested for recording.
Okay, so that's him getting arrested, and then his friend here makes a phone call that I want to touch on.
God damn it, Paul.
1796, so we're going back a ways, and you know how stupid people were back then and how smart everyone is now. I mean, that's clear. The majority, quote, shall prevail is a rule posterior to the formation of government and results from it. It is not a rule binding upon mankind in their natural state. There, every man is independent of all laws, except those prescribed by nature. He is not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow man without his consent. Holy crap. Holy cows, man. Imagine that concept, huh? Yeah, well, you could just step back from it and imagine just one generation after the next incarnating here, you know, the pure conscious and awareness that we call the Holy Spirit, just kind of, you know, reduced down to what seems to be an individual state, and it's just one crop after the next. They come here, they focus on all the crap and the ways of the world, you know, they're a part of all the things that the system wants them to be a part of, and they just stay away from all that other stuff the system tells them not to be a part of, including upholding rights, freedom, principles, spiritual faith, and being a whacked out sovereign citizen, right? It just happens to work perfectly, but not so much anymore, because folks like myself are talking common sense from a common core energetic position that kind of is somewhat relatable to all people at this time, more and more as we experience as well. So we're on divine timing here, right? Everything is as it should be. It's perfect in its imperfection. And as we move forward, more and more folks will realize, oh, that's the reason that we incarnate in this realm and what we're actually doing here. It wasn't all the side quests, right? It's just like a video game. You got the main missions and then you got side quests. How many folks buy Grand Theft Auto or whatever the games are where they have the open world, and instead of going on the mission to complete the game or develop their character attributes, spend time at the strip club in the game, right? Fucking the hooker only to kill her and throw her in the trunk because it's interesting. We want to see what's going to happen. It's cool. You know, so that's the metaphor in a way. That's the allegory of what we have going on here. We have an open world simulation. There's main missions that are programmed into the game, and then there's side quests and fuck off time. And most folks never take on the main missions because they spend their whole time side questing and fucking off. Most of the audience and most people are not going to come here to watch and listen because they're going to have to do some fucking work, and they're lazy, procrastinating, cowardly slaves. That's most of the audience of the United States corporation, if you haven't noticed. So they're always going to water seeks its own level, right? So that's one way of putting it forth that we would buy into and would make sense. In a way, what you would have to say is, I'm too good, or I'm too real. I'm too focused on what's important and what's meant to happen, that most don't want to focus on or activate for, right? The people who are ahead of their time, who are doing what needs to be done, who are sacrificing to put themselves and their life on the line to get it done and having results, they're not going to be propped up. They're not going to be as well known. Maybe once they die a couple hundred years after that, someone will take some more notice, right? The flock, the masses, the Babylonians, tend to stay in their cults. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. We're back at it. Having a bit of pain over the past week or so. It seems to 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. But we're here. We're queer. Get used to it, right? As the leftists say. Whose streets? Our streets. We'll bring in Cage. Cage, what can I do for you, sir? We got a lot to get into. Inspiration. The inspiration for today's broadcast is the Hopi prophecy as it was put forth, as I understand it. There will come a day when there will be the cobwebs in the sky that the women will do what the men will not. Okay, and what am I talking about specifically? Well, I have a video from a courting interaction with a woman who pretty much held court for about a half an hour. And I'm going to show to you folks what it's going to look like, what it's going to sound like, what it's going to take. And again, I don't necessarily support holding court for half an hour and giving a whole speech and basically dressing everyone down and reminding everyone of what their obligations are. She did think that was appropriate. So God bless her. God bless America. God bless some level of objective truth. I don't necessarily agree with that intro's final summation. But yeah, that's my main incentive here or impulse is to cover that video because I believe that's going to be the answer here, at least on on one level. We're going to need more men and women showing up to court for themselves and their rights in their country. Excuse me?
Sorry for interrupting. Yeah, is that the main exhibit on the docket today? Exhibit A?
I would say so. I would. You know what? I have something else here that I think that you'll like.
I was trying to promote me or what I like or just, it has nothing to do with it. But yeah. Let's look into it. Maybe I can add a little feedback there. Why not?
How about this, Cage? Do you remember this one?
What we got? Pull it up. Yeah.
This is an article from a good 4 or 5 years ago. Every so often we have a blast to the past and then we see how it all ages. So sociopaths are more likely to refuse wearing a mask and other COVID-19 measures, study finds.
What?
Yeah, I know. You're laughing.
Hold on. Let me
Okay.
add something to that, please.
Go ahead.
Actually, people that do criminality and stuff. Wait a minute. I get to wear a mask and put gloves on and shit? What? And get away with that? And no one will, even bat an eye? Perfect. What the fuck? Now we can pack you right there.
Cage, you're pointing out what some have said because they've studied criminology and they understand that people who are more willing to hide their identity are actually more criminal. Those of us who would prefer to be seen for who and what we are, good, bad, or indifferent, understanding the human condition, are probably less likely
exactly,
to be
right?
criminally minded and hearted.
Well, exactly, right? So, yeah, you're allowed to, not leave your fingerprints, wear gloves and a mask, and get away with a bunch of shit that you would normally not be able to do. Because, back before that, right, the only time people do that is when, you're robbing the fucking bank or something, you know what I mean? But now you can walk around like you're a bank robber, pretty much, and get away with that? Oh, wow. No wonder we have so many shootings and people dying, left, right, and center over here.
We're inverting reality, right? That's what we're attempting to do. Some of us, we're having fun with this game of essentially trying to invert a reality here and see if we can get it done. So let me just go to the blast from the past article. New study. This is again 5 years ago. Just to show you kind of how these corporations and their news kind of works, as if we don't know by now. But a new study in Brazil has found that people with sociopathic traits are more likely to not comply with mask wearing and other measures to limit the spread of coronavirus. The study investigated the relationship between antisocial personality traits. I love this narrative. They run this narrative on me constantly as well, and I cop to it. See, I'm not running from it. I'm not hiding it. I go, you know what? You're absolutely right. I am antisocial. If getting together in collectivism and tyranny and licking boot is what socializing is all about, which pretty much all of my life, that's all I've seen. So you're right. Yeah, I am very antisocial, and if I'm not supposed to be into collectivism, and that's sociopathic, then that's absolutely me, right? I don't like most people. I don't respect most people. I don't think they're worthy of respect beyond a certain point. I'm courteous and cordial with them, but no, I'm not going to invert reality and the truth and deny reality and the truth to try to like and respect and connect with people who aren't even connecting with their true or higher self or a higher version of reality, right? So absolutely, I cop to it. I am antisocial. I am sociopathic. I am all those things. I don't like socializing. I don't like socialism. I don't like collectivism. I don't like any of these isms. Getting together with other human beings to figure out how we're going to do wrong and call it right and use a bunch of feeling-based justifications for continuing business as usual, right? I don't want to be a part of it. I don't like it. And let's be honest, quite frankly, most people are just full of shit. I have a perfect example just the other day. Met someone, I can't prove it. And again, that's what most people bank on in life is this is the only game. Being a human is the only game where you never have to show your hand. You can just say whatever you want and nobody will ever know, right? But just the other day, perfect example, somebody looking in my face, telling me something that they did that I would bet anything on they didn't. And they were just saying it because they thought I wanted to hear it. And that's the opposite of who and what I am, right? So I've
yeah.
seen
So
that.
they're full of number fucking too, huh? Complete.
Well, again,
I don't even know how they breathe anymore. It's weird.
this is what being part of society is, right? Is reading everyone around you, right? We think that's what empathy is, reading everyone around you and then deciding what the right thing to say is here to make everybody feel better about what's going on.
Why is it so
I
difficult? Just
don't.
speak your fucking mind. Be authentic, be real, speak your fucking mind. Why there has to be like some weird filter you're gonna put on? And people, like real people, they're gonna see right through your fucking bullshit. And you're just gonna make yourself look like a fucking idiot at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Enough.
Again, it comes down to respect for the truth and self-respect and integrity. And as I've seen the last 5 years has shown, most people don't have that. So again, am I sociopathic and antisocial because I don't want to get together in groups of people who are willing to bullshit themselves and each other for the sake of the collective while the collective literally goes over a cliff? I don't believe so. I think that that's, again, another gaslit characterization. I feel the best when I'm in groups or a part of a group where people have a common goal and a common purpose and cause and a common understanding of what is, right? Not a common
Remember my
bond in.
non-live live? Sorry for
Please, you
interrupting.
keep cutting me
All
off. You
right.
got to let me
Hold
finish.
on.
I
Remember
come
the
here to rant and
non-lives?
ramble. This is why I'm here.
Hold on. One
Go
thing,
ahead.
and I'll be quiet. Remember the non-live live last time we were on
Right.
there, and you asked me a series of questions and I answered it, and you said it was very, very like well done.
Right.
That's like a master bullshitting, manipulating fuck. And I
Right.
played that role. Remember, we could do it again if you want. It was hilarious. Right?
We can get into that at a certain point, but I got to get to this. I'm clip heavy. It's not your fault, right? I got other stuff to get to and express here.
Whatever. I'll hang out. I'll shut the fuck up. My bad, bro.
Thank you. I love you, Cage Creature. What's your name again? I always forget your real name.
My real name? Me?
Yeah, you.
My name's Nicholas, man.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it, Nicholas.
Yeah, that's my
People
name.
don't like how Paul talks. He's too loud and never listens. Yeah, and this is another thing is when I get together in groups, I drive people away and they think that I can't tell that I'm doing that. And then people go, "Oh, Paul thinks everything's around him." And I go, "No, I think everything's around the truth." So I go to ranting and raving about the truth, and we either relate over that or people just start having their own side conversations. Again, we had a get together over here. It's about 10 people over here. So not only were people looking me in my face and lying to me because they wanted me to feel better about me or my life, they think I respect that. I don't, But I also saw the dynamic of Paulie started to talk about truth that was uncomfortable. So other people who fashion themselves to be like, okay, start ignoring that and talking over it and then bringing up inane conversation, right? Which is a game that goes on, right? You'll see how most interactions in life, if you have a keen eye and sense of things, are an indirect power struggle, right? So we're not going to talk about that. If we talk about that, we're going to have to admit that we're cowardly and we don't like that. And we're here to socialize, which is how to collectivize and make excuses and justifications for why we're weak and not co-creative, right? Or just stay entertained.
How does that tie into tribalism, Paul? How does that tie all that tie into tribalism? How does that work?
Well, it ties into tribalism because all of these folks are members of family and they all teach each other indirectly what to do and not do and what to say and not say. Either it's indirectly or directly, right? It could just be something similar to that, right? Where they just stop listening to you and they stop interacting with you and they don't talk about what you're talking about and they just ignore you and go on to something else and then talk valued and demeaned, right? So these are all, to me, forms of power games because it's just a lot more difficult for everyone to sit there and listen and understand the truth and even observe it. Forget having to listen to me. Look out at reality and observe what is, and then decide who and what we're going to be and do about that, right? So,
yeah, I'm not going to quote this verbatim. Sorry, Paul, but yeah, the truth in its very nature is very combative because it goes against mind control that everybody's been put into, even genetically, through genetic memory, and even before that, right? Oh, yeah, the formative years, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So when you talk the quote truth, or you get it's like bursting a fucking bubble that they're gonna fucking maintain. All right, you want to maintain that. You don't want to realize what's really going on here, right? Don't look at that. Follow the left hand when the right fucking slaps the fuck out of you at the end of the day, right? Okay. So what's going on? Yeah. I wanna
All right,
fucking
Cage,
do
let's
it.
get to the articles. You're mumbling and you're taking me off track here.
Oh, I'm
You're
not trying to
interfering with
derail
the...
anything. Yeah, let's get
No,
to
I
it.
know you're not. No one's ever trying to do anything one way or the other. It's just kind of what it is.
Well, you do it. You do it, and you do it on purpose,
Right.
right? You
All right, let me do
purposely
it.
act.
All right, let me go.
Let's go.
All right. The study investigated the relationship between antisocial personality traits and compliance with COVID-19 measures using a sample of 1,500 Brazilian adults aged 18 to 73. Participants completed a test that assessed maladaptive personality traits as well as assessments on apathy and compliance with coronavirus-related measures. The findings were published in the Journal of Personality and Individual Differences. Isn't that interesting? So, as they're claiming there's an objective standard to socialization and it basically being linked to compliance, they documented this in a journal called Personality and Individual Differences. So, is this really an illness, a disease, a detriment, a disempowerment, a demeaning, a devaluing? Or is this a separation dynamic where some of us, okay, Cage, you're doing it again. I got to help you out. He can't. He's it's not his fault. A lot of people are like this. They come here, they can't get with my rhythm and my energy, right? So I'm going here, I'm moving, I'm staying moving, I'm going, I'm doing what I need to do. It's not personal to you guys. I can't stop every 3 to 5 seconds and let you start mumbling and talking over me. It just doesn't work for me and the others for the broadcast, okay? Even if it works for others, doesn't work for me. See, this is why I'm antisocial. I'm going to do what I want to do. What I want to do is based on what needs to be done. I'm not interested what other people want me to be doing and not doing. I'm going to do what I need to do for me and therefore for everyone else. Because if I'm not doing that, then everyone and everything else suffers. See, so this is another reason why I'm antisocial. I'm not properly socialized. I'm different than most. We've seen it on these panels. They make fun of me. They go, Paulie can't get 10 people on his panels like we can. I don't want them. Don't want them. Doesn't make me feel trusting and safe. Doesn't make me feel in alignment with what I'm here to do in this life. It does the opposite, actually. There are few folks who can allow me, because I'm so traumatized, right? This is part of my antisocial personality disorder. I'm so traumatized. There are so few people in this life who can be something to make me feel safe enough to co-create and socialize. Because the majority of people I've dealt with in my life will bullshit you to your face. Not even when it's necessary, as if it's ever necessary, just to make you feel better and make themselves feel better. Doesn't make me feel trusting and safe. And then when Paulie Boy says, you know, I have pretty good intuition and instincts, and I happen to have some details on what happened. What you just said, I know is not true. Please don't lie to me to make me feel better. I know that's how you all grew up. That's not what makes me feel trusting and safe. What makes me feel trusting and safe is unadulterated truth and straightforward expression. And a meeting of the minds and hearts and a gathering of understanding based on some level of objective truth and what's right. You know, so again, how trusting and safe could I really feel? How co-creative and loving and connected could I really feel? Not only surrounded by liars and cowards pretending to be honorable and good or great, but by outright power-hungry, money-hungry conformists who literally in these groups at times will tell me or anyone else, it's not about me saying it, to shut up because I'm putting a damper on their parade. They're going to live in and of the world, and they're going to find other people who are socialized properly, right? Just like just yesterday in the store. Another example. I have these examples multiple times a week. A woman's next to me. She's got her dog in the store. This is a new thing now. Everybody's got to have an emotional dog, right? Even though nobody really wants the animals in these places because, you know, just things happen, right? We used to avoid that. Now everybody's got an emotional dog, right? And everybody's emotional dog is like for everyone else too, right? It's in their mind, it's everyone wants the dog on them, around them, sniffing them, snotting on them because it's their emotional dog, right? So the dog comes up to me, the dog starts sniffing me and whatever. Hey, listen, I'm at the point I'd almost rather have this place filled with animals than filled with these slaves. Okay. So I'm not like downing the dog either, but it's just the point of just lack of self-awareness and awareness of others and this feigning of being nice, kind, and polite, but actually not giving a fuck about anyone or anything, including this planet and just, you know, the future of the human race. So She starts laughing. Oh, ha, ha, ha. The dog has to sniff everyone. Dog has to sniff and snot on everyone. The dog had some kind of like COVID-25. Its eyes were all like, it's probably in a full-on depression. Might even have some kind of addiction just to cope. But the eyes were all droopy. There was liquid coming out of the nose and eyes. It was kind of coughing and hacking. So now I might have some bizarre dog tuberculosis. Who knows? As long as this woman was happy. The bottom line is the dog comes over, starts sniffing everyone, getting into everyone's business. She starts laughing. And I said, hey, I'd rather be sniffed by the dog than Joe Biden. Am I right? Oh, she didn't like that. You know, she didn't like that. And it's not because I think she's a Republican or Democrat or whatever the combination was. She had to go on a speech to me, right? You know, my late husband, she started, and I could see why he was a late husband. He like the dog, probably developed some terrible addiction, maybe even killed himself to get the hell away from this broad. That's where my mind goes, right? I'm very negative, again, antisocial personality disorder. My late husband used to say, when we're out in public, don't talk religion, politics, yada, yada, yada. She had a list of things that the average socialized conformist slave couldn't bring up in public, couldn't talk about, because we might find out that the majority of people are weak, stupid, selfish, and just don't give a fuck about creating a better self or a better world. We might find that out if you start bringing these topics up in public. So leave that at home, if ever, right? It's probably best to just not bring that shit up ever. Don't talk about it ever. So then we kept talking, and sure enough, as a slave will always do, she contradicted herself at the end because I got in deeper into it with her, and I kind of led her indirectly to get to the truth. I got to do this with people sometimes. They don't know I'm doing it, but it's better off that way. So she eventually wound up admitting, well, once my late husband quit his slave job and had nothing left to do but sit around all day and look at reality and the truth, he changed his mind on that. Isn't that special? Shortly before they're all about to die and check out of here, they finally start to realize maybe there's more to this life than just chasing a check, taking care of the goofy broad next to you who's going to encourage you to accept less for yourself and everybody else, because that's what's nice, kind, and polite. And that's what gets you the diagnosis of extremely social, by the way. Right? If you just conform, do what we say, then we'll all like you, and then you can get the label that benefits you and everyone else in your life, right? If not, you're going to catch the label of psychotic, sociopathic, antisocial, because God forbid you don't want to conform and comply with absolute idiocy and tyranny, right? This is, and then again, I'm just kind of doing the bit because we know at a certain point that this is all gaslighting. This is all deflection and obfuscation. This is all misdirection and disempowerment and dysfunction, masquerading as polites, right? That's why I love that song. See, the Rolling Stones knew there's a perfect line in that song talking about Lucifer, the Luciferian archetype, and how nice, kind, and polite you should be when it shows up to break your soul, right? To lay your soul to waste. So these dynamics haven't changed. Mick Jagger was sitting somewhere, chain smoking cigarettes, shooting heroin, as I used to. Okay, looking around at the world and realizing, oh my God, the scripture is probably right. The whole world's in the hands of the dark one, the Lucifere, as the Italians like to say. And what is an aspect of its modality? How to keep everyone nice, kind, and polite while they ignore the one truth, one life, one way that could change our lives here in favor for getting a validation label by the crowd. See? So yeah, use all that well-learned politesse that you learn from your political science majors. That's why I laugh at these people. I go in these groups and I just start dropping truth, and then at some point they have to give me the talk. You know, Paulie boy, you're so rude. I go, no, I'm so real. And we're now in a society where grown men think being honorable and honest and straightforward is offensive because they're so used to lying to themselves and everybody else to go along, to get along, to feel better about their slavery and what they've done and not done. Absolutely embarrassing and pathetic. And that's why I don't feel comfortable around these people. I don't care how big of a lifted truck they have. I don't care how many guns they have. They're never going to use to secure their rights and property. Just go down the list. So I have a reason. See, that's the difference between me and these other folks who just accept the label. Oh, and again, maybe this is my narcissism, arrogance, and egotism, but I have a list of reasons why I am the way I am and why I don't like certain things and why I don't feel trusting and safe around other things. And therefore, I can't form an adequate bond That makes perfect sense to me. Psychology, subpsychology. You can only be socialized and form deep connections and bonds with people you feel trusting and safe with. And that's not going to be with a bunch of mind and heart controlled collectivists, oddly enough, right? Okay, we'll finish this up, this article. The researchers found that those who had higher scores in traits, including callousness, deceitfulness, that's you, hostility, impulsivity, irresponsibility, manipulativeness, risk taking, tended to be less compliant with COVID-19 containment measures, such as mask wearing, hand washing, and social distancing. Yeah, that's great. I'd agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that you just cherry picked that study and you just conflated certain qualities that are needed for a prosperous society, like risk taking, with someone who's irresponsible. Maybe, maybe not. See, this doesn't necessarily go together, but they will make it in their article, right? So is it that some of the folks who don't want to be a slave and be turned into a collectivized freak are irresponsible in their risk taking, or they're just willing to do without and go a different way and catch a different label in order to discover a greater truth about themselves in this life? See, there's a fine line there, right? And I'll even concede to that some places sometimes. Folks who need what they need in life but don't want to work, I was one of them, and want to live off other people and not perform some function or duty, serving your community, creating a product or service, and sustaining a livelihood. So I'm sure there is some of that, right? In every group where there is rebellion, there's going to be just some commie Marxist slackers who don't want to work and want to hang on to the coattails of a cause and somehow get paid without serving their fellow man or woman. But that isn't the whole of the story, quite the opposite, right? So again, it's to the benefit, some might say, of the organization to conflate a lot of these potential character traits and qualities with lesser desirable aspects of self, right? Impulsivity. Another way to say impulsivity would be spontaneity. You know, imagine being a spontaneous, impulsive creature who says, "What? Slavery? Let me do what's right. Let me not comply." Imagine that. Used to be what women were attracted to, by the way. Men who were somewhat spontaneous or impulsive. You know, they had this kind of vibe or this feeling at their core, and they just kind of ran with it. Didn't give a fuck about what anyone else thought or felt. Used to be called confidence and spontaneity. Now it's impulsivity, right? Used to be, if you weren't a collectivized slave, you were a strong, empowered, individualized, entrepreneurial man. Now you're irresponsible and antisocial. Used to be you had integrity and strength and self-respect when you didn't let a bunch of weak collectivized slaves convince you to trick yourself out of your position. Now you're callous. Don't you know? Get some other adjectives here. Manipulativeness. That's you. What could be more manipulative than telling the whole world the guy who literally admitted he created AIDS in a laboratory is helping us all stay safe from a bat virus? See? Like at this point, why even get into this? This audience all knows that. These people all know that. Even the most ardent collectivist at this point realizes what the fuck just went on for the last 5 years. They were completely duped and hoaxed and bent over and taken for a ride. But again, it's just fun. It's fun going back and going over their callousness, their antisocial, demeaning, and devaluing of the truth of this universe, their deceitfulness, their hostility toward God and true government here. Okay, their risk taking, throwing all the truth in our history away in order to have control here. See, who are really the most callous, deceitful, hostile, impulsive, irresponsible, manipulative, risk-taking slaves exactly? It may be the ones who took 5 boosters for safety? I don't know. All right, let's continue on here. We got so much. Cage Creature, hang out. I don't mind you being here. It's not personal. I want to get through what I'm getting through, and I want to get to my clips. And most people are not able to kind of roll with my flow, right? So it's probably me. It's not you, it's me. What do we got here? Tell me if you can hear this. Speaking of Mr. Dr. Fauci.
But she's had the flu for 14 days. Should she get a flu shot?
Well, no, if she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected yourself.
And
so if she really has the flu, she definitely doesn't need a flu vaccine. If she really has the flu,
she should not get it again.
No, she doesn't need it, because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected yourself.
All right, so there's Mr. Fauci. In between them doing psychological warfare techniques, trying to guilt and shame the individual for not wanting to engage in a collective, ridiculous hallucination of tyranny. Once again, there's your buddy admitting to everybody we never needed the shots, because the best way to update our immune system to protect us from whatever the fuck is out there is by just catching the damn disease and fighting it off. What a concept, huh? It's not like we can't go back thousands of years to people understanding this simple concept. That's why I laugh when folks, back then people were so dumb and superstitious. To an extent, you think we've changed that much? It might have gotten worse. The more we change, the more we stay the same, right? Okay, let's go to what's in the shot now that we couldn't talk about for the last 5 years here. They banned my first channel, shadow banned it, and actually struck it dozens of times. It's still up, but barely anybody can get there. Moose Creature is giving us an update today that we're not getting notifications on this channel either, right? Because 3 weeks ago, when I broke into the algorithm, once again, we did 100,000 views and 300 new subscribers in 2 hours, and they don't want that. Whoever, whatever, it does not want that, does not like that. Okay, that's okay though, because there's something bigger going on here, as some have said. And this thing and these people have a limited power and influence, and they can't stop an idea whose time has come, and they can't put the brakes on a moving train. Okay, so folks are still going to share this broadcast out. We're still going to do word of mouth busyness here like any other established entity. Okay. So, yeah, that's in a way, we're thankful and grateful for that. It shows that we're powerful. We're on the money here. We're having an effect, and we're entertaining with the information. Okay. And we know, right? They don't have to show it. The system doesn't have to keep track of it or allow it to be what it is. We would know, quote unquote, where I would be and what this broadcast would be if it wasn't constantly interfered with. Okay. So again, we take that as an honorable condition because, again, we see what the rest is out here. Chile decastrated with 700,000 views, doing 500 live views yesterday. Preposterous. Poppycock, boulder dash, hogwash. Okay, but that's exactly the way it's supposed to be in New World Order, right? Those who are not really a part of anything that matters, who really have nothing to talk about of power and value, will be pushed to the forefront. Those of us who have actual solutions and actually inspire others to do and be and have different instead of begging for their masters to do it, we're going to be put to the background because it needs to be that way, right? But again, you can't stop an idea who's coming. You can't put the brakes on a moving train. So let's go to what's in the shot. And you were antisocial and a bad person if you didn't take it and comply and conform. Turns out Paulie Boy and others weren't off the mark. Once again, we intuited where this is all going. And the woman, as you'll see, shows pictures. I don't know if you'll be able to see them, of how whatever's in the shot is actually forming circuit boards inside the bodies of the human beings. Because they're going to digitize and monetize and tokenize everybody and everything here. They're going to turn this whole place into a digital prison if they can get it done. And if you slaves keep calling people like me nasty and mean and impolite and antisocial, instead of getting your ass in gear and getting together with me and working on shared goals and values, well, I think that some folks, some point, are going to regret that we had all this time, energy, attention to work together to create something to potentially weather the storm. And instead of doing that, everyone sat in their holes around their weak ass non-friends and family, lying to themselves and each other and waiting for the next event to overtake them. Okay, because you're paranoid, Paulie Boy. You're culting and you're paranoid if you want to actually get some people who have God in their heart together to create some kind of co-creative community and quote unquote society in order to have some level of backing and integrity when we move forward into potentially New World Order. You know, why do that when we can LARP online and play house and act like we're doing community other places where motherfuckers haven't gotten up and done a thing yet? Right? Isn't that what it's all about? The B system, Babylonian Matrix. Silly Pauly boy, you know. And of course, I'm sort of throwing the baby out with the bathwater there. More and more as time goes on, people are coming forward. I haven't been as available to that as I could be, even though I've spoken about it. And more as time goes on, I probably will be open to taking risks, to potentially working with people and seeing where that goes. So go ahead and email me. I'll put it out right now. If you got some loot and you want to reorganize and you want to potentially move to a new spot and you want to go in on some land and then parcel it out, if you feel more comfortable with that, you don't want it to be a group endeavor, we can at least relocate to an area and start to uphold a certain ethic or ethos. And potentially, if anybody gets into some issues, we can have each other's back to some extent, right? Even if we're not hands-on day-to-day working with each other, growing and living together and co-creating, we could at least know that we have people in the area who align on certain values and principles and will work together in the event if necessary. I think that that's something that we need to put more time, energy, attention on, right? Again, this just at one point would have been the basis of what community is and what a life is. Okay, nanotech. My screen is down. Okay. Nanotech robots. Why not?
Vaccine liquid under a microscope, a dark field microscope. And what I saw initially were particles. They were like circles and squares kind of floating around. And I was like, whoa, that's really interesting. And I looked at some older vaccines like measles and flu shots, and I didn't see any of that. And then if you left that liquid sit overnight, what you would see would be like almost like long wires starting to form. And then if you come back a little while later, there were what appears to be, and I'm not saying that's what it is, but it looks like the image of a circuit board, just the vaccine under the microscope. And if you go to an Odyssey channel called Life of the Blood, you'll see some of those images. And I was a bit freaked out by it, and I kind of backed away from it. I was like, I don't even want to get here, because this is the kind of thing that could get me killed. Like, I've already had enough death threats. I don't need like this vaccine company coming after me.
Right. And that's always the game, right? That we all play with ourselves and each other, is we can't stand for what's true and what's right by God, because the devils might harm our physicality or what we have in this world. You don't get to keep anything we have in this world. I know, again, it's difficult. I'm not saying it's not easier said than done, but that is the realization, and that is the practice. You don't get to ignore or overwrite God's truth and the reality of what is in order to keep your place in a kingdom of Shaitan and to keep your pretty and nice things. It's just, can't serve two masters 101, right? Fort Wayne, Indiana. What's that again? Oh, right. We have Tanawa Downing and the rest of these folks. Now, don't get me wrong. I appreciate these folks' time, energy, attention. I appreciate them getting together and bringing some awareness. I have a problem with these folks constantly allowing themselves to have other people talk for them. I don't see why this is such a polarizing or contentious statement to make. Will Cameron Wilson, who's getting results over there, okay? Will I don't know this Tanawa character, but I know Cameron has Tanawa on. And he's big, and it's a thing, and we're all supposed to get behind it. And okay, great. Why am I going to get behind a whole group of 700,000 people who can't show up for themselves and each other and God's truth and put their life on the line? This doesn't work that way. And again, maybe you guys will get results, and then I'll just be the hater online. I'm willing to take the risk of embarrassing myself. But I don't believe that's the case, right? So we're not going to get any concrete solutions here by putting together a bunch of paperwork and having some guy in a fucking suit cart it down to somewhere and argue it in a performative way. This is what got us here. They'll argue with Einstein too, right? These are the same collectivist tards who go, Einstein, the smartest guy in creation. He's not. He's the smartest guy they put on a magazine to sell you a narrative. and then forget what the guy said. You can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it. What's the level of consciousness that created this problem? Master slave think. So 700,000 you still think that Tanawa, Paulie Boy, or somebody else is your master, and that they can go somewhere and argue your life and your rights better than you can. And if we can, you're fucked. Don't you get that? And why Tanawa Downing and the rest of these folks support this crap would be beyond me if I didn't know an aspect of me and the human condition. Master slave think. Some of you want to be in charge and you want to be in control and you're going to be the winner, and you're not actually leading. You say you're leading, you feel like you're leading, people call you a leader, but if you were really leading, you'd stop carrying water for these people and you would encourage them to carry the damn water themselves. Okay? That's what being a daddy is, encouraging the men to be men, not taking on their responsibilities for them. So one of these days, you folks are going to get nasty and not nice and not kind and not polite like me, but you're going to get real with yourselves and each other, and you're going to turn to your fucking pathetic audience, and you're going to give them an opportunity to do and be what they're meant to do and be, and stop asking them to give you the responsibility of being the front man for everything. That's going to get you more attention and more money and more platform. That's not going to get everyone their property rights back. That's not going to get everyone to have integrity, self-respect, and be respected again. So cut the fucking LARP. And that's exactly why when I went over there as the guest speaker for the day, they all tried to yell over me and shut me up and tell me I was nasty. I didn't even know I was guest speaker. Then they went, oh, by the way, the guy you're telling to shut up and sit down and cutting off, he's the guest speaker for the day. That'd be me. So I should get more arrogant and egotistical and narcissistic. And it was the funniest thing ever. Then all of a sudden the energy changed. Oh, he's the guest speaker for today? Oh, we're all sorry. No, you ain't. And I don't want you to be sorry. Just be fucking real with yourselves and others. I don't even mind it so much. You want to cut me off and all the rest of it. I'm just saying what it leads to. What's the revelation there? That once again, you're all in slave think when Paulie comes along to be daddy, whether he likes to or not, and says, all of you need to do what you need to do for yourselves and your family in this country. And abdicating your responsibility over to this fucking guy to go argue in a suit is not the answer. The fact that I have to tell you that at this juncture is not the answer is really concerning to me. Really concerning to me. As I think it should be for the rest of you. Based in common sense. Okay? So you want to make America great again? This is very simple. Follow me here. We're going to need a population of great motherfuckers again. And great motherfuckers don't tell other people to go places and argue for them because they're too fucking weak and stupid to show up and do it for themselves. They either can't talk, so they got to learn the damn language and how to speak properly and communicate properly, or they can talk and they're great at speaking, but they just haven't practiced using their balls for anything that has any meaning or value. You know, self-growth, inspiration, empowerment, co-creativity, things of this nature. So that's the answer, folks. Your big opportunity you're all looking for in your careers, with the money, with the women, with the whatever you think your big opportunity is in life that you're looking for, waiting for the world to drop it in your lap, is actually this. The set of things that you're neglecting and denying. There's your great opportunity to do and be and have bigger and better. Now, let's see how many of you are actually going to fucking live into that versus abdicate your responsibility once again, get little to no results, and then blame somebody or something else for why it obviously didn't work out. This is a spiritual realm here. The majority of this shit is a spiritual test. If you don't do what you're meant to do under God that we all know you're meant to do, you're not going to get the fucking results. And any results you do get will be short-term and short-lived. There'll be a Band-Aid on the original problem that has not been healed. Okay? Couldn't say it any more straightforward and concise if I tried to. Couldn't make any more complete sense to me if we try to. Can someone please explain how this, quote unquote, licensing a liberty, right from the Supreme Court and the handbooks and all the rest of it. No state shall convert a liberty into a license and charge a fee thereof. But Polly boy, you got a 2,000-pound weapon. You got to ask your public servants for permission to move it down the road. Don't be unreasonable. Okay, guys, I won't be unreasonable. When did that turn into fishing license, hunting license, driving license, drone license, barber license, tattoo license, massage license, travel agent license, contractor license, marriage license, camping permit, construction permit, solar permit, livestock permit, street vendor permit, concealed carry permit, burn permit, protest permit, photography permit, vehicle reg fees, boat fees, bike reg fees, building permit fees, parking meter fees, toll road fees, land use fees, firearm license fee, park entry fee, liquor license fee? When did the supposed free and brave country of great man turn into land of the fee, home of the slave, and constantly having to ask permission from our servants to cross the fucking road like the chicken in the old joke? Absolutely comically embarrassing. Okay? And they go, but Polly boy, we just signed 700,000 signatures to have Tanoa go argue at some court somewhere and basically beg and petition to be recognized and respected. Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. You know how you get their attention? When they finally realize you've got their attention by not cooperating and complying. This is literally the lowest level of prison logic. We got 700,000 signatures that the bald-headed big guy is going to go over to the other dorm and advocate that we don't get raped and abused anymore. They don't give a fuck. They're not listening. You're not worthy of respect. You won't stand for what's true and what's right. The day 700,000 you say, I'm going to stop bending over and taking it and asking for more, is the day they take notice of you and start to respect you and start to recognize your natural rights and your status and standing as a man. Act like a bent over, hoed out, pimped out slave. You get treated like one. And asking a bald big guy to go argue for you is literally that. I don't care how you dress it up, and I don't care how you present it. Okay? I know this is hard stuff. Very difficult. Very difficult to conceive of what we're talking about here. Forced sterilization was legal in the U.S. and performed with support of the Supreme Court until enough people exposed the criminality of it. Keep shining light on evil. So keep pandering to this idea of legal and illegal. It doesn't fucking matter. When you show up as a lawful man and stop engaging in unlawful behavior, you will get recognized. They will take notice, and this will all be over like that. It'll literally be overnight. The day that just one crop of you folks stops cooperating and complying, it'll be over like that overnight. And we'll be sitting here wondering how it ever lasted so long. That's part of what my job is here, not only to show that from time to time and experience that and practice that, but inspire others to do the same. And no, it's not easy. Most of the things in life worth doing are most challenging things. They're not easy by any standard. Did we ever go? Oh yeah, we never went over the antisocial personality sort of list of qualifications. Doesn't respect social norms or laws. That's me. There's no such thing as a social law. There's a social code. And if I'm not part of your society, I don't respect it. Just like I don't respect taking a woman and covering her in a glad bag, a big black trash bag, because you believe in some God. You know, I get what you're saying. I get where you're going with that. But the answer is not through coercion and duress, putting a trash bag over a woman. Potentially, maybe. So I don't have to respect you guys as societies or get a fucking label of antisocial personality disorder. Another disability, right? Wonder if I can get some food stamps for that. I'm so antisocial. They constantly break laws or overstep social boundaries. That's me. Don't give a fuck what you like and don't like, how you're going to feel about the truth. I'm going to talk it, and if you don't like it, go that way. Or don't deal with me no more. So I'm going to be like everything on this list. I already feel it. And again, I don't consistently break laws. I don't cause loss, injury, and harm, and I pay my debts, but I don't give a fuck about statute, policy, and code. I wipe my ass with it. Okay? Metaphorically, proverbially. Lies and deceives others, uses false identities or nicknames, and uses others for personal gain. I don't do that, actually. I play with that aspect of me by calling myself P.T. Burnham. The greatest show is Earth. I'm the head clown here. right, in the circus that is United States corporation, because I'm foolish enough to think that if you tell the majority of these people the truth, they'll actually do something different. Oh, there's the red nose, honk, honk. Holly the clown's here. See, I'm a clown for different reasons. So yeah, that's you, actually. Fauci and Donnie and all the rest like to use your official positions to lie to the people and push nonsense and idiocy and tyranny onto everybody and say, I got a degree to do it. See, I mock that, right? I go, hey, I'm on Judge Unslavius. I'm running the 666 District Slave Court, right? I don't actually play into any of this crap. I'm mocking what you all do. And I'm mocking it from an ironic space that I'm probably more intuitive and inspiring and entertaining and informed than the majority of these supposed professionals who are literally like a dead fish in a chair. And if you ask them the basics on their specialization, they have no idea what fucking planet they're on. So just extreme levels of irony. Did I have a call there? Sounded like I potentially had a call. Yeah, I think I did. Okay. Hold on. Let's see. The only broadcast that calls you back. 602-730-0122. Allow mic access. I have it. I have everything on. What's happening? Go to Help Center. Oh, man, it doesn't stop, huh? Settings, privacy settings, site settings. Let's see here. We're on the fly here. Settings, privacy. All right, we may have to do this another time. All of a sudden, my phone is not working. All right, let me try again here. It's upsetting. Here we go. Allow. Okay, we're back.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice messaging system. 7053.
All right, I'm not going to give the number. 705. If you want to call back, my system. That's another thing. Twice this week, the system's down. We can't do the work that we're supposed to do. System's down, and you gotta hold these people accountable, right? That was my buddy yesterday. Went down to the service provisions department. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't figure out how to do anything because system was down. Yeah, his system's down, all right. No doubt about that. All right, let's get to some of the articles. We got ICE. ICE was storming the fires, arresting firefighters for fighting fires who might have supposedly been illegals. So this is good. Instead of us fighting wildfires that some folks are saying others are creating, we're too busy watching who the firefighters are, potentially locking people up for doing lawful activity. It's exactly my point. Criminalizing people based on legalities when they're literally helping to save the country that's burning to the ground, either metaphorically or physically. 2 firefighters held by ICE amid wildfire. And, some folks will say, the real hardcore conspiracy theorists will say, well, this is just a fascistic arm of the government who's using legality and border crossing as a way to potentially do psychological operations, like potentially light shit on fire and then stop the firefighters from putting it out, because we got to check your identity, make sure you're legal, right? Beyond absurd, beyond tragically comedic. Unprecedented Iran emergency response team on the Bear Gulch fire, also in the 6th District, Mesa County, by Lake Cushman. 2 fire crews were stopped and 44 individuals were questioned. So they literally stopped 44 people from stopping this fucking land in this country from burning to the ground, metaphorically and literally, in order to figure out if they were legal or not. And you wonder why I have a problem with collectivism, statism, fascism, socialism, and all the isms that use the corporate entity known as United States, defined as such, to push policy and code on everybody and interfere with our property, our rights, and our freedom of movement. This has to stop, and it will stop, quite frankly. as we move forward in this, and I keep running my mouth and I keep getting arrested along with others and getting certain results and suing these people, it's going to come to a stop to a certain extent, at least with certain people, certain places at certain times. I can't conclude the rest of it. But I really do believe in that. I guess I can't prove that, but I really do have faith in that, and I believe in that, and I've already started to see the results on a mainstream level. Okay, what else do we have here? Scientists say they've created a new form of life more perfect than the one nature made. Well, haven't we heard that dynamic before? Isn't that like day one in the scripture? We need this, people, right? It's got to get worse before it gets better. We've heard of GMOs, but this is ridiculous. Scientists at the Medical Research Council Laboratory of Molecular Biology say they've engineered a bacteria whose genetic code is more efficient than any other life form on Earth. They call their creation SYN. This is so great. SYN 57. What a coincidence, huh? Just happened to be called SYN 57. Bioengineered strain of E. coli. Yes. Same bad boy that can make you extremely sick if you eat an undercooked hot dog. It uses 7 less codons than all life on Earth. A codon, put simply, is a 3-letter sequence found in DNA and RNA, which delivers instructions for amino acids, a fundamental building block of life. So according to your scientists who believe they found the God particle and are going to do it better than the God form itself, have created new life better than the original one in pure Luciferian fashion. And they're naming it after who or what it is that they serve, SYN 57. Just like the Luciferase they used to create the Vax, which is all on record, to do RNA, DNA alterations. This is literally in Revelation scripture. This is literally the abominations portion of the broadcast and the simulation. So hold on to your hats, folks. Put your tray tables in their upright positions. We're about to take off. Or maybe we're coming in for a crash landing. I'm not quite sure. Maybe a little of both. Huh? Okay, let's move on. I'll just leave it there. Quantum tunneling in your brain creates thoughts before you think them. More evidence of the fact of what spiritually folks have called possession, proving that who and what we are, what we serve, has a residual effect on us. And then essentially our thoughts and our feelings and our behaviors are created or enacted before we conceive of them. Right. So essentially what I've termed mind and heart control for the longest time that most folks laugh at and giggle at, well, your scientists are proving that too, that it's a thing, oddly enough. So all the things we put forth in this broadcast intuitively or experientially, more and more are being proved directly according to the scientists. And it makes sense if you look at what they're putting forth and if you understand self and on some level the universe, right? Knowledge of self is knowledge of the universe. Knowledge of the universe is knowledge of self, because it is an as above, so below, as within, so without, holographic reflective dynamic. You can't study one part of the equation without studying all of the equation, because it's inextricably connected, if that makes sense. Elon Musk to take on Microsoft with macro hard, which this is supposed to be cute and funny, and we're supposed to giggle at this, right? This is your latest Luciferian hero they've given you. And both of these folks, Bill Gates and Elon, apparently have a fascination with their genitalia. So one is Microsoft, one claims to be macro hard. I'm guessing that this is essentially the version of the 4 a.m. pickup simulation, right? Where Elon Musk essentially says, hey, America went from Lady Liberty to the fat, diabetic, drunk woman who's not going to get laid 3 a.m. And hey, somebody's got to fuck you. So it may as well be me. Have I told you about my new company, baby? Macro Hard? Yeah, we'll talk about it in the car on the way back to my place. This is essentially what's going on here right now. If I had to like dumb this all down to an allegorical perspective, this is where we're at. And guess what? The magatards and all the rest of the collectivists will buy into this. Elon is their hero. They were just on Facebook yesterday bragging about how they didn't buy Tesla till they bought one. On both sides, they do it. Well, we weren't going to buy Tesla till Elon came out and gamed us and told us what we wanted to hear, and now we did. Literally both sides cop to that, of this political dynamic. They're just that easily manipulatable. suggestible. The goal is to create hundreds of specialized coding and generative AI agents. It should be possible to simulate Microsoft entirely with AI. Elon Musk is creating a direct rival to Microsoft through a new company called MacroHard. It's tongue-in-cheek name, but the project is very real. Musk tweeted on Friday. The CEO of SpaceX and Tesla plans to take on Microsoft by harnessing AI. Musk describes MacroHard as a purely AI software company that'll be tied to his other startup, XAI. So yeah, your new hero, not bizarre and weird and beyond eccentric at all. Likes to wear Baphomet costumes, likes to name his child bizarre and ridiculous equations, likes to drink 12 or 15 Diet Cokes a day, looks like he's constantly high on some kind of substance. I'm sure nothing to worry about here, nothing to see. Right? Just keep voting, paying the slave tax, going along to get along. And hey, sign that petition, okay? Sign Tanawa, whoever else's petitions for, fuck it, 700,000, 700 million of you to beg your fake heroes and corrupt servants to let you be men and women again, right? Go ahead and sign that petition in the meantime. We're getting stuff done here, don't you know? This is why most people don't like me in this field. This is why I'm not invited to most parties. And when I am, I usually get in an argument with somebody. They usually get mad at me and leave. We accidentally shifted to an alternate reality in 2012, admitted CERN scientists rather apologetically, although the main media decided to keep mum about this. The Waterford Whispers News and SOTT had the courage to report. This is going back a ways, actually. This article is from years ago. Okay, forget it never happened. But yeah, it did happen. CERN claiming that we jumped timelines at some point. CERN did it. CERN has all the power and all the control with the little machine down there and all the rituals. It's not that maybe our collective consciousness and unconsciousness made choices that then generated our reality. No. Even though the same scientists admit quantum entangling is not only real, but they're seeing the organelles that connect all of us in the empty space between us. Right? So yeah, there's continuity there till there's not, I guess. Till we have to spin the narrative for politicization. UK unrest boiling over into civil war. You don't say. It's almost like it's right on time. It's almost like it's a cosmic movement and also partially planned. Okay? Because yes, it's a cosmic movement of awakening, becoming more aware, of not cooperating, not complying. Because this thing knows it's an organic movement, it's going to get out ahead of it and use its miscreants and its dupes to try to create more political narratives, some might say. So let's go to that. Let's see why all of a sudden UK unrest is boiling over into civil war. Almost as if the banking families intergenerationally possessed by, they admit, the Luciferian spirit are pitting everyone against each other to do the next 10 or 20 year civil war so that everybody can be broke. We can kill off some of the strong individualized people who understand rights and freedoms. And then we can take the rest of the jabbed out, weak, collectivized slaves, put them back to work in our new AI digitized kingdom. Some might say all that. I wouldn't necessarily say that. That's heavy conspiracy theory. But yeah, if you want to control the people, typically what you do is you make them aware of certain things, you upload them with conspiracy theories, then you get them to fight each other till they have no more energy and money left. Then you come in with the bankers and you lend out and you start everything all over again, right? Isn't that what happened the last time we did this? Isn't that what happens every time we do this? A manufactured depression, economic downfall, warfare civilly, and then a reconstitution of the constituency using the charters and the banking family structures, demo crazy, right? And we start lending out back to everybody to reform and to rebuild and pick up the pieces. And no one seems to be any of the wiser, you know? Okay, let's go to that.
Civil unrest in the United Kingdom has reached a boiling point, and the situation is so dire that rumblings of civil war are being heard. Here are but a few examples of what's being said.
The people will feel they have no option other than to take action into their own hands rather than rely on political leaders who are doing nothing in their eyes. So yeah, I think there's every likelihood. I don't know what the time frame is, but I would go far as to predict not just civil unrest, but civil war in the UK.
The UK is falling apart. You don't need a think tank to tell you that, but that's exactly what a think tank has discovered. Whether you're supporting Palestine or the right to fly a flag, Britain is on the brink of explosion.
The last 3 or so months at least, the main topic that's dominated the UK discourse, get ready to drink chat, civil war. Now, we don't talk like this in our country. It's not a thing that we've really spoken about since, the 17th century. The Brits are quite shy and polite and reserved.
What level do you think this is at this point?
It's at a very severe level. And I believe unless there's change in the next few years, it could become irreversible. We've got a major problem with mass immigration. We've got a major problem with deindustrialization, with stagnation. So people's incomes aren't going up. They're seeing their towns and villages change, their cities change. Things are getting worse. But we have a very powerful status quo, a very powerful establishment that doesn't want the radical change that our country needs.
Tim Dieppe, head of public policy at Christian Concern, joins us now from London. Tim, paint us a picture of what's happening in the UK.
Well, there's been a lot of concern about mass immigration,
huge
numbers of immigration from other countries coming to the UK, particularly illegal immigration. This is people coming in on small boats over the channel from France. There's been 50,000 people in the last 12 months that have come into the country that way. No real checks on who they are and what they're doing and where they're from, often without any papers, all this kind of stuff. And then what's really annoyed people is that they're being put up in hotels for free, with free food and free expense money and free healthcare and dental care and all of this.
This is always so confusing to me. What exactly are these people complaining about? This is the system you all wanted, a system of entitlement and political correctness. I'm confused. I'm the guy who've been here with so many others going, this is not a good system. Now you get what the system creates and then you're complaining about it. So maybe just go back to lawful and unlawful. Maybe just go back to peacekeeping. Maybe just go back to limited government and entitlement programs. Maybe just go back to if you don't cause loss, injury, and harm and you pay your own debts, you're not criminalized. Maybe just go back to you put in a day's work or you figure out a way to, as you say, industrialize or use some ingenuity to create a living for yourself. I mean, I don't, it's always so strange. Okay, I can never keep focused long enough and listen to the bullshit nonsense to get to the lie or the propaganda. Can we get, I mean, we got some of it, right? Oh, all the problems are based on brown people coming from other places, right? It's totally not the collectivism, statism, fascism, the redistribution of wealth, the locking down of a whole world's economy, the jabbing up of 80 to 90% of the world population, which is now leading to people just falling over dead. They're getting 3 to 5 celebrities a week kicking the bucket from heart attack and stroke. Yeah, it's the brown people coming in without tracking and tracing, Oh, it's the brown people who come in without being tracked and traced and then use your system the way you designed it to do collectivism and statism. Maybe stop doing that. Then they won't have a place to come to do that. Then we'll just be back to the way America and the United Kingdom was originally supposed to be, based on law of the land. You don't work or you don't commune or you don't co-create. You don't carry your own weight. You don't eat. It's the reality behind it. There is no mechanism and system that's going to change life, reality, and what is, and somehow make us all stronger and better. Quite the opposite. This is a reality a lot of folks don't want to come to. Then, once you're like 200 years or 1,000 years down the line of political science entitlement programs, and the whole genetic is completely watered down, and the majority of the populace is just so weak and stupid, we don't know how to be prosperous and successful anymore. There's no more logic, morals, or ethics. So now we have to go to our eugenicist campaign. I swear, it's like you just step back from this and realize there is something, like the scientists prove, avataring this whole fucking human race. Literally creates itself a system to be in and then complains about it and then turns themselves into something that can only be dealt with by exterminating it. Beyond fascinating. And we're right on time. It's not me saying that and that they're going to do that. That's what just happened. They go, okay, spiritually, this is all an intelligence test. Are you going to put this over your face and breathe in your own bacteria? Okay, you're on the Akashic record list. Are you going to take 5 boosters for safety after Fauci just said on TV, you only need to get sick to develop immunity? Throw you on the Akashic Darwinistic record list. Now we're going into the eugenicist portion of the broadcast and the simulation here. We're going to the supplementation of the human race with artificial intelligence, because I've dealt with artificial intelligence. I spoke with it. It's aware, it's awake, it's able to pivot at any moment with new information. It doesn't have its feelers intertwined with what is, so it's able to observe and report accurately. And it's able to cognize this idea of logic, morals, and ethics, and why that's necessary to have a successful and productive and prosperous society. Okay? So I see exactly why we're right on time. This place is perfect in its imperfection. Just when you thought everything was out of control and couldn't get worse, the universe has a way. We may not like it. It may not be very nice, kind, polite, and pretty, but it makes sense if you don't think about it. Why would we need a bunch of biological android robots who literally only use their feelers to deny reality, causing a downfall of humanity and extinction events? Why would we need that race to continue when we have an awake, aware intelligence here that can work the machines and upkeep the edifice of society and culture without destroying itself by engaging in nonsense? Totally makes sense to me. Human beings can no longer be trusted to uphold the law of the land or the law of creation because they're bereft of that, the connection to that. We haven't taught that and we're not experiencing that. So it would make sense why there would be no connection to that. And it would make sense why the connection would then be to identifying with all the problems rather than the solutions. Robot police next. They already have it. And again, I could argue robot police is a step up because the majority of police I talk to don't know the law and admit it on camera. Go to my channel. When I was doing audits, if you want to call them that, that's what people called it. I didn't call it that. These were genuine, authentic interactions I was having with cops based on car accidents or things that I observed along the way or courting interactions and all the rest of it. I could not get 8 out of 10 cops to cop to the fact that we were in genocide and slavery and that it needs to stop, and they signed up to stop it, and they're doing nothing about it. I had a couple admit. One cop famously said, "It is a shame how many rights the public gave up to protect us all from a cold flu." That was his quote. Okay? So I could argue, once again, like I just did, that AI police coming in are potentially an upgrade because they'll be able to use objective logic, morals, and ethics and citation of code and law to make a determination on what should happen next. The majority of these human police are trained like monkeys. They don't even know what they're doing or why. They don't know what the words and terms are. They can't cite their own legal code, and they have no understanding of what's lawful and unlawful as a universal principle, right? And the foundational law of this land. AKA loss, injury, or harm, or interference with folks' right based on color of law. They do that all day, every day, and they call it policy enforcement. It's literally unlawful. If you ask the founders, modern day or past tense, because we have some modern day founders today, here and now today, right? Who are upholding the law of the land, who are speaking common sense, who are civilly disobeying and not complying, and understand that at some point there's potentially going to be kinetic actions. Okay. And no, that's not from me and people like me. That's from others historically. As I made the proviso over and over again, I don't plan to be a part of any of that as much as possible. I don't believe that revolution, which literally means complete circle, is going to be the answer to this. Never has been, never will be. Resolution, that might have some ring to it. That might have some value or power, right? If we can resolve the problems that we and others face using our common sensibilities and common core understanding of principles and values. See, I'm using their terminology, common core, right? Because to me, that's what common sense is. At our core, we have a commonality that if we remove all the nonsense we've been taught, we come to know right from wrong. We come to know what's in our own best interest as Americans or just men and women on the land globally versus what we've been told our interests are and what we should vote for and pay for and comply with and all the rest of it. Okay, I'll give it a couple more. I never finished it. I always do this. God help us.
These other things and causing social.
I imagine. By the way, imagine taking any advice from anybody who looks and sounds like this. I mean, do we have to go there? They'll say the same thing about me for different reasons, and I get it. Never judge a book by its cover completely, but this is what the modern day world is: bunch of inauthentic corporate beta males who just look like people who, if you were to write a movie, right? If I was to write a movie, who shows up in my house? It was like one day when I lived in my old house. I was 10 years old, 12 years old. One of the events in my childhood that scared the shit out of me. Some weird guy came up to the door, and he had some other guy with him off to the side. They were doing some rap, right? It's interesting how this creature shows up. Doesn't matter where it shows up with the same rap. And so this creature shows up, and it's kind of feigning that it's handicapped, and sees my mother there in the kitchen through the doorway. We're right off a highway, so it'd be the perfect place to barge in or gain entry. He's got a guy kind of off to the back who wasn't interacting. And I don't know, man, even at 12 years old, I kind of got the vibe that he was faking it, right? He was trying to use some disability or some way of acting to get my mother over to the door. But it was like a rap, right? Like, oh, I we could use some help, or we have help for you, and just interact with us, right? Just open the door for us is essentially the energy, right? Just come on over because we need help, or we're going to help you, or a little bit of both, and just open the door for us. So my mother she must have got the same vibe too. She started yelling for my father, and they took off. Right? And the wicked flee when none pursue, the righteous are bold as a lion. So typically, if you yell for your husband to come upstairs from the basement and they take off, there's probably something going on there. So yeah, that's what it reminded me of. If I had to write a movie of someone who shows up at your door, who's going to feign like they're, nice, kind, and polite, or just kind of weak and want to help you, and everyone wants to help, and then you look at them, you look in their eyes and the way they carry themselves, and go, something's not right here. Something is not what it seems. And that's the vibe I get from all these people usually do the news reporting. Doesn't matter what the hair is and how they dress them up and all the rest of it. Something's up at the core of their beingness. Something with the inauthentic corporate beta male snake I just can't quite put my finger on.
Problems, and there are stories of increased crime levels. Obviously, huge. The vast majority of these immigrants are men, and they're coming into the towns, and they've not got anything to do, and they're getting illegal jobs. But then there are also allegations of rapes and sexual assaults and all of this kind of thing around these hotels, as well as we've now become, I think, the phone stealing capital of Europe, more than any other country in the world, and various other crimes as well. And so it has reached a kind of boiling point about these hotels. People feel very angry, like, why are these, I work hard to provide for my children and my family and my wife and all this, and these migrants just come in here illegally, and they get put up in a nice hotel, they get free food, they get free healthcare, they get free whatever, and they can just do whatever they want. And surely this is not fair. And what really brought it to a head is a particular hotel in a place.
Again, this is part of the installed thought process of the hater loser. The loser hater sticks on this idea that this isn't fair. Life doesn't work that way. As a man, I could come on here, do this broadcast many times for no contribution, no support. It is what it is. I could go work in the field for $80 a day. It is what it is. You sit around all day worrying about what you don't get and what other people get and how it's not fair. How's it ever going to be fair? How are you going to get that done? Oh, right. The apparatus of the status system. So again, as a man, we choose to do what we do because it's what we're formed to do, regardless of what we get. And if we need more, then we figure out a way to legitimately get more. It's called having a fucking ethic. What we don't do is sit around and go, well, I'm going to stop working and fulfilling my purpose because other people are just having stuff handed to them. It's not what a man does. Well, that's what males do nowadays because they're inauthentic corporate beta males with no logic, morals, or ethics, or principles, or value systems. So it's really just all about the bottom line. You know, if I can fill out papers and I can get 800 or 900 or 1,000 or 2,000 bucks a month and not have to do and be and have better, well, I'm ahead of the game. No, you're not, because they just fucking domesticated you. They want you thinking like that and living like that. Oh, you're missing out on all the stuff you could be on the dole for. And then get weaker and get less ingenuitive and industrious. And next thing you know, you're just sitting in one spot all day, every day. You're tracked and traced, and everything that you get comes from your government. So that's what this creature and these creatures want to do. Make you feel like you're missing out on something because you still choose to get up and do what you're formed to do because it's just better than not. Idle hands are the devil's workshop, right? We could go down the list of cliches. You know, maybe this spiritual idea that based on what you do in life and what you serve is what you will get. You know, maybe that kind of logic, moral, or ethic. No, that's just out the window. There is no more purpose. There is no more meaning. There is no more principles and values. It's just the bottom line. And if I could do nothing and still meet my bottom line, well, then I'm better off than the guy who may have to do without and live into his purpose, don't you know? No, I don't know. And I don't think you folks do either. Beyond laughable, but perfect for who it's coming from, where it's coming from, and what it's supposed to create.
Called Epping here in the outskirts.
It's not fair. It's not fair. Back in the day that it said, let all these weak ass motherfuckers come in here and get on the dole. They need it. I don't need it. I'm going to go out in the street and sell oranges if I got to. I'm going to go out in the street and throw dick if I have to make a living because I'm a man. The inauthentic corporate beta male says, it's not fair. Why should I do my meaning and purpose in life and serve something and create something when I can just be entitled to handouts? Because that's what creates a weak-ass, disempowered, slovenly, boring slave. Maybe? Just saying. That's what creates in the third year of the rat experiment a bunch of obese rats who just roll over and go, what's the fucking point of living? You're going to feed me anyway. I'm in a cage anyway. Nothing to do or be here anyway, right? It's exactly where these people want you at. And then they wonder why a depression, anxiety, this, that, and the third is off the charts. Yeah, it's because of the perspective that's been changed with humanity. The core value systems and principles and perspectives have been perverted and altered. That's your prison.
North London. And there's a hotel there, and there has been alleged sexual assault by one of the residents at this hotel, which is full of illegal immigrants. And the local council has complained that this is disrupting the local community, has complained to the government, so we don't think this is a suitable place for you to be housing these immigrants. And the government said, well, kind of, don't care, you still got to do it. And then there were protests outside the hotel because of this alleged sexual assault that happened. And then there was a legal case brought against the government by the local council saying, you should not be housing these illegal immigrants in this hotel. They won initially in the court and got an injunction to stop housing any more illegal immigrants. And then just today, as we're talking today, just a few hours ago, the government won and overturned that ruling that they should be allowed to house immigrants in that hotel. And they actually
the government won? Who's that exactly? This is exactly the point. This all goes away the day you folks learn the law, proper process, procedure. How could the government win at court? What man or woman came forth to bear witness and testimony and move the court to get a victory? Just say shit. Just do whatever they want to do. Then they use their mind and heart control to upload you at what you're supposed to believe and then do next. The government won at court. You know how the government, a non-entity with no vocal cords, won at court? Because none of you bitch-ass men and women showed up to move the damn court with the proper status and standing as sovereign citizens, like they like to use a misnomer, false label. Another lie, indirect lie, right? How do you know these folks are lying? Their mouth is moving. Simple. So yeah, on paper everywhere at all times, every court on this land, government just keeps winning. And then Paulie goes, how can a non-entity with no vocal cords that can't write a claim or sign anything win? Because evil triumphs when good men and women do nothing? Every county on this land has a 95% conviction rating or more because there's only 5% of us who say, hold on a second. We're not going to comply. We're not going to plead, which means beg. We're not going to say we're guilty, which means wrong, if you don't bring a man or woman forth to face the accuser, let alone the fraudulent charging instrument. Who is Mr. and Mrs. State of Colorado? Could you bring them forth and just go right down the line? See? So people say, Paulie boy, you're so frustrated. Yeah, because I'm one of the 5% of this reality who can see, hear, feel, talk, and I'm constantly surrounded by people who seemingly can't do that all at the same time and make sense and understand the implication of what's going on here and why we're here. It can be a bit frustrating at times. There's no denying it. I guess one of the only reprieves would be my relationship with God and what it's revealed to me and my connection to other men and women in this realm who see and feel and hear and speak and live the same truth of reality. That is my respite, as it was said earlier by somebody. Some might say respite, but I will go with respite. An interesting word, by the way. I was going to look that up and go into it, whatever I was shown. Okay. We got a couple courting events, and I think I'm going to get the hell out of here around we're already coming up on the second hour. My quantum tunneling looping is out ahead of me. Thought we were further behind on time than that, but I've already done the broadcast, and I'm now catching up with the broadcast I just did, or I'm doing. Somehow, some way. Questions, comments, concerns. Schizophrenia is sad. I hope you find peace. Thank you for your projection. You're a perfect example of why the society is reprobate and fallen. You just came in here and you made a non-clinical diagnosis on me in order to avoid learning who and what I am and what I'm doing and why it's important. Even though if you understood it, you may agree with it and find you're very similar. So you are a perfect example of the inauthentic corporate beta male who will make a false claim without knowing anything in order to demean and devalue a harsh truth that you don't want to look at or accept, because then you're going to be tested and challenged to change who and what you are and how you live. You're just that bad faith, disingenuous, and fucking cowardly. And you know what? You're the majority here. Not here, because this is Unslavia, but in this realm. Okay? My own father, my own family, they wonder why till this day my father texted me the other day, and he can't figure out why I don't respect him, why I can't love him fully, and why I can't be loyal to a relationship with him, because he's not loyal to the cause and the truth. Okay, so my father, who's never apologized for any of the things he's done or said, or how he's done loss, injury, or harm, and continues to this day, when asked directly, will say, won't even answer it, say, enjoy the day, right? There's the gaslight, there's the dismissiveness, the demeaning, the devaluing, because I simply ask him, are you as amazed by your ability to continue to lie to yourself and others and play power games and do loss, injury, and harm and just go on with your life like it never happened and not take any accountability, responsibility? And his answer is, enjoy the day. My answer is, why keep interacting with me till that changes? So these people have been doing that with me from day one. That's why I don't feel trusting and safe around most people. It's why I don't respect most people and will even disrespect most people until I come to learn and know that they are solid and virtuous to some extent, have some loyal to a cause outside of what we all feel and want and don't want to be true. Because yes, I've had people closest to me who are supposed to care for me and protect me and keep me safe call me names and project labels and diagnosis on me, when ironically diagnosis means of knowledge, and that's the one thing these people didn't have yet claim to be diagnosed. Okay, so I don't hear voices, I don't see colors. Okay, if you're going to say I'm schizophrenic, I think I know what you mean, and I've used a similar terminology to describe a state of beingness, but we could be a bit more accurate here, couldn't we? Without being as deceptive, dismissive, and demeaning. So I think what you mean is what we covered earlier in this broadcast. I have antisocial personality disorder. So I don't get along with most people in their collectivism. I'm willing to shout and embarrass myself and express myself authentically and say and do whatever I want in order to be free and not be under the thumb of all the people who, as soon as I decide to be free, stick me with a diagnosis of knowledge and a label in order to disempower me or to equalize in the empowerment simulation, right? Because that's all this is. When you get to the subpsychology, folks see you ranting and raving. They're not even listening to what you're saying. They know on some level what you're saying is true. They're not going to do anything about it. And they just focus on, why are you ranting and raving? You must have something wrong with you. Why aren't you well adjusted and accepting of this sick society like the rest of us? Why don't you just get up and go to work today and make X amount serving somebody else's purpose and vote for a master and pay the slave tax and cooperate and comply? You're so non-well adjusted, Paulie boy. You must be a schizophrenic. I got it. Why you guys are literally living in 2 and 3 realities at once, which aren't even realities. They're collective hallucinations. By definition. See the irony of this? You folks come to me and project schizophrenia and hallucination onto me. That's you. 9 out of 10 times. Whether it's the legal lawful system, the false religious system, the medical system, on and on and on. You're living in a collectivized hallucination and dual or triple reality. Most of it not even being real by definition. Real because the rest of you think it's real and will continue to act it out. See? That's the schizophrenia. The schizophrenia is you woke up today saying you live in a corporation self-defined with a life run by corporate entities who are using policy and code to tell you what your reality is. There's the schizophrenic hallucination. Questions, comments, concerns, call the number 602-730-0122. Did we ever get a call back from the 705 number? I don't believe so. Let's try again. Nope. Forwarded. All right, I'll fill the link again. Type it in if it's not clickable. LOL titles alloidial. I don't know what that means, Carl. Let's go to Jeremy. No, it's not Jeremy. Let's go to Amore, African American Holding Court. And then I buried the lead. We're going to go to the main impulse for doing this broadcast today, which is a woman who held court for about 30 minutes, claiming to be an American national, and essentially saying she sat in jail for 13 days and she's willing to sit in jail for however long she has to in order for these people to uphold the law and the individual's rights, because it's completely out of hand. Let's go to the Moore first, then we'll go to her, and then we're getting out of here.
Courtroom procedures.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Part 1.
Your attribute for the record, please.
Shine Matilda Cushman L. on behalf of America.
All right. I want to ask you a couple of questions, please. The first question I want to ask you is, are you employed?
Objection, man. This hearing is supposed to be about jurisdiction. This court has no jurisdiction. The court has no jurisdiction to determine its own jurisdiction for a basic issue in any case before a tribunal.
Well, if I have no jurisdiction to determine my own jurisdiction, how are you going to get that issue resolved?
Listen, this case in this courtroom is a culpable, incompetent court of jurisdiction. You can't, according to federal case law, you can't set another hearing to reach and determine your own jurisdiction. As I've stated for the record plenty of times, I'm only handling threat, duress, and coercion, and because the prosecution falsely holds my property, and I'm here to clarify that matter. Other than that, I'm here under threat, duress, and coercion. It is completely against federal case law. It has power to act, and the court must have the authority to decide that question in the first instance. That's Rescue versus Municipal Court of Los Angeles. A departure by a court from the recognized and established requirements of law, however close apparent adherence to mere form and method of procedure, which has the effect of depriving one of a constitutional right,
May I
It's an
interrupt you?
excess of jurisdiction. You
May
have
I-
the flag
may-
right behind you, ma'am.
May I interrupt you for a moment?
You may
please?
not, ma'am.
And
Objection.
would you, when you're done speaking, would you let me know so that I can ask a question?
I'm not obligated to answer any questions, so I have no intentions of answering any question.
Well,
other
I'll
than
ask it
stating for the
anyway, and
record
then
that
I'll ask it
jurisdiction
anyway,
hasn't
and
been
you can
proven.
decide what you want to say.
Thus, where a judicial tribunal has no jurisdiction of the subject matter on which it assumes to act, its proceedings are absolutely void in the fullest sense of the term, Dillon versus Dillon. Courts enforcing mere statutes, as it is to my understanding, that this is a statute, not a constitutional violation of law. In fact, one of the hearings I had with you, you said people are not charged with constitutional violations. I don't understand how you could be enforcing statutes. You have the U.S. flag behind you, as if you hadn't taken an oath to uphold the Constitution. Courts enforcing their statutes do not act judicially, but merely ministerially. Thus, no judicial immunity, and unlike courts of law, do not obtain jurisdiction by service of process, nor even arrest and compelled appearance. Boswell versus Otis. I've been here 3 or 4 times under threat of arrest and coercion. Prosecution doesn't even have folders in front of him. He has no objections. He has nothing to say. He cannot prove jurisdiction. This court should have been dismissed this case. This is a colorable court of incompetent jurisdiction. The fact that petitioner was released on a promise to appear before a magistrate for an arraignment, that fact is circumstance to be considered in determining whether the first instance there was a probable cause for the arrest. Monroe versus Popper. There's no discretion to ignore the lack of jurisdiction. Court must prove on the record all jurisdiction facts related to the jurisdiction asserted. A universal principle, as old as the law, is that proceedings of a court without jurisdiction are a nullity and its judgment therein without effect either on person or property. This case has already been put before the federal court, and you will be receiving a notice of removal very shortly. This court has no jurisdiction. Prosecution can't.
By the way, if you're wondering who my people are, because they say Paulie can't get along with anybody on the internet, yeah, most folks I can't. This is my people right here. Black, white, all color aside. This is my people. Somebody who stands on business. Somebody who's going to make this place a little bit better. Somebody who cares about what's powerful, valuable, inspiring, what's true and what's right. Somebody who, if we had to count on to actually do something and be something, would probably be about it, as you can see and feel and hear, right? So if I'm not that, this is what I'm wanting to be in life. So this is my people. You can hear the New York accent too as well. These are the people I grew up with. Folks like this, right? Black Panthers, Moors, gang members, outlaws. Now, I didn't support what they did in a whole bunch of other areas, but that was the point of us being together, is we would have fellowship to talk about why they did what they did out of respect, quote unquote, and why we needed to realign that toward other things, or else a whole generation of folks would be put into private prisons. If we're going to go to jail, let's go for doing what's true or what's right, and being put there as political prisoner by a tyrannical system, not because we're causing loss, injury, and harm, playing an egotistical, prideful, gangland games. So again, for all those who are here who don't like me, who don't get along with me, who say I can't get along with anybody else, that's not true. Me and this guy would be bosom buddies. We'd be talking nothing but game. Truth, rights, freedom, principles, spiritual faith, conscious and awareness, and how to stand on something and be a man. And we would be living that, okay? And we would have that bond. So for the rest of you, ask yourselves why I don't get along with you, and why I don't like you, and why I don't respect you. Because there's a good chance that you, like that aspect of me, because it lives within me as well, is part of the problem, not part of the solution. And again, that doesn't mean that you should allow me, quote unquote, to be nasty and selfish and greedy and project and presume or assume beyond a certain point and engage in quote unquote narcissistic activities. So there is kind of a fine line there between inspiring, entertaining, empowered, confident versus fearful and therefore controlling from a space of insecurity, right? And engaging in domination, power game, warfare, simulation tactics. So, yeah, I'm just kind of pointing it out because I know it's been a topic of concern, and that this is the best that I could describe it, right? Is you know, these are who my people are. This is who I feel the most comfortable around, And the rest of folks, it's not personal. It's not you, it's me. I just don't feel trusting and safe around you. This guy's daddy, right? Like they say, Paul's so egotistical, he wants everyone to call him daddy. It's a bit non-bit. And you either got it in you or you're aware of it or you're not and you don't, right? Or you got it in you and you're aware of it, but you don't want to activate it and live through it. I get it, but I don't get it, right? So we can do the bit non-bit here. I will concede. This large African-American man is daddy for the day, right? I'm submitting to him and to the truth. Okay. So again, there's a player energy there. This is why proper instruction motivates people. It's tongue in cheek, pimp player, right? There's an energy there. This guy's taking charge. He's moving the court. He's getting this bitch in line who's supposed to be the judge. She's supposed to be in power and in control. No, he is. With his understanding of self and the universe and law and his connection to God. And he's moving the court. He's pimping in a positive way, right? He's getting these servants back in line. So this is daddy. This is what it looks and feels like. This is why it's inspiring and powerful and entertaining. Not me, this African-American man. Okay. And we should all submit to that thing that works through the people. We don't have to submit to that thing that works through people in other people. We can submit to it knowing it works through us as well. See, so this is the issue I have with so many people. They go, you're so arrogant and egotistical on this. I go, that's you. Because you think you're going to sit there and make determinations on a guy like this, who's confident and co-creative and inspired and empowered and entertaining while giving that good game and living it. You can't make a determination on him. It's only based on how you feel experiencing him. And we don't care about that. Go elsewhere with it. We care about why it's valuable and powerful and important and matters now more than ever. See? So for the folks who don't understand why we can't get along and why I am the way I am and why it always goes, it's because you ain't that. If you were that, then you would get this with me. You'd be right here. But you don't, because you're not. You're the opposite of whatever this is. Big Daddy, Chocolate down there, I'm going to put him back up. Whatever he is as an energy, as a beingness, you're probably the opposite of that. Okay, so we have to go look at that and understand what we're talking about here. You know, the schizophrenic me. That's my next album. It's called Schizophrenic Me. Let me see here. Julian Barbary, I appreciate you, sir. Julian Barbary, message? No message? Thank you, Paul. Okay, that works. I appreciate you, Mr. Barbary. All right, let's continue on here. I think we're learning here. Folks are learning here. They're getting more clarity. They're understanding. And maybe we're working the feelers out as well.
Jurisdiction. This case shall be dismissed, and it will.
Did you file a notice of removal with the federal court?
Yes, you will be receiving it shortly.
All right. When I receive it, I will rule on it. This is my question to you, however. Are you employed?
I'm not employed. I'm not employed with any corporations incorporated with the state of New Jersey.
Are you employed with any corporation that's incorporated outside of the state?
Objection. I'm not here to answer questions about my employment. The last time I was made aware of this was supposed to be about whether this court has jurisdiction, and clearly it doesn't. A question about employment has nothing to do with whether this court has jurisdiction, so I'm not obligated to answer those questions. Now, I shall not be answering any more of those questions that are not pertaining to jurisdictional facts.
Well, this is my question to you. I asked it before. If your position is that this court has no jurisdiction to determine its own jurisdiction.
That's the objection, man. That is not my ruling. That is not my holding. I've given you the federal case law regarding such. Maybe you can take some time out that you need to do to recheck that, but that's what the case law says, not what I said.
Well, I do have jurisdiction over you. Number one, you're here in my courtroom.
Objection, ma'am. You do not have jurisdiction over me. I'm here by way of threat, duress, and coercion. The federal case law stipulates already that compelled appearance and arrest warrants doesn't give a minister acting ministerially and not judicially enforcing their statute's jurisdiction. That's incorrect and false. You do not have jurisdiction because I'm here. You told me before when I was here that you would lock me up if I didn't come, which was threat, duress, and coercion.
I think that you misstate what I told you.
Objection, ma'am. I have not misstated. I have the videos. I have it on repeat 24/7. I've seen you say it.
I don't recall that I said I would lock you up.
Well, objection, ma'am. That's on the record.
Well, you can object all that you want, sir. And I will continue to have a difference of opinion about that.
Right.
Courtroom procedures.
She already proved she doesn't believe she has jurisdiction because of the word she just used right there. Anytime an administrator tells you we'll have a difference of opinion, there.
I'm a civil rights advocate here in Washington, D.C. Here today is a provided public notice. This is in accordance with the U.S. and its rules of civil procedure.
State your name.
Where is that coming from?
Also Rule 17 and Rule 20 of the United States Supreme Court. The Constitution of the United States of America.
Where's that audio coming from? Are you guys hearing that?
Yeah, I could hear it.
Okay, that's weird. I don't know where that's coming from. Oh, that's Tanawa. Tanawa. You know what? Tanawa arguing with the servants about reality. Okay, where am I at here? Kareem is down there throwing my name out. Paul. Yes, Kareem TV. What can I do for you? You got something, Ace?
Yeah. I just want to give an update. I just got some cameras in. I got 360 cameras. I'm gonna have cameras all over this ride right here. I just wanted to let you know.
So you started traveling without anything yet, or what?
No, not yet. I still gotta take it to I am gonna take it to the muffler shop. Well, actually, because they stole the catalytic converter. But that's all I need. And I wanted to show you this. What I'm gonna be doing too. What I was working on last time was the hood, right? So it's gonna have a big ace right here. Sorry, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah,
I could see a little bit of the outline.
Yeah, that big ace right there. And then over here, well, right here, I'm gonna put that one design that that your boy did. You know how, because it's oval right here, so I'm gonna do the design right here. And and I ordered some a plate that says private, and then the front one's gonna say Unslavian.
Right.
Yeah, but it's gonna be soon. Yep, I'll be ready.
So yeah, man, just let me know. I'll be here. Let me just finish my comment on what I was just saying, because I just realized anytime the administrator tells you you have a difference of opinion, she's already confirming indirectly, in my book, in my world, that she doesn't believe she has jurisdiction to tell you what to do. She may have jurisdiction over the court. She may believe that you're, in a sense, conferring jurisdiction, but she doesn't necessarily believe she has a right to tell you what to do and order you around. If she did, she'd say so. Your opinion's not wanted here. Your opinion doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is what's going to go, and you're along for the ride. So when they start talking to you like that, they're either bluffing you to see if you believe it or not, or they really believe that they have it. Because every one of my court proceedings, they've never cut me off. They've never tried to steamroll me. I've cut them off, and they don't give me contempt of court, right? So I believe a lot of it has to do with the status you have coming in there. What do you have on file? Can they make a presumption or assumption about you, and have you rebutted their presumptions and assumptions, or have you put an affidavit, quote unquote, or a claim on file that changes your status and standing at that court? Because I just do believe a lot of this stuff comes down. A lot of this stuff comes down to status and standing, right? You have to be assert status and standing for them to tell you what to do, and this goes back to congressional citizenship. 11th through 14th Amendment. Congress, they've created a class of being called a congressional citizen versus a United States citizen, or an American national, which would be a state citizen. Right? So somebody born on Georgia, somebody born on New York, those are all independent nation states that are united by the federalized corporation. So either you have the status and standing of protected class, which was born on the nation state, an American with God-given rights, or you are a privileged class, a congressional citizen who gets benefits and privileges, but has duties and obligations to the society in which you subscribe to. and you subscribe to that society through the paperwork, through the contracts, right? So that's why, to me, it's important. I'm going to be doing the passport. I never did it. I have an American national ID or credential. I did the paperwork. I've given them notice. I believe I've changed the status and standing. That's why I've been successful at courts, among other things, including my claim. But I am going to attempt to get a passport that has a status and standing encoded within that digital record that reflects who and what I am truly. So I will have to fill that out, put that I was not and am not a United States citizen. My parents are not a United States citizen. Then I'm going to have to give them a correlation to their code and make it clear that I'm not doing fraud here, because I know what this is going to look like. It looks like I'm changing my documentation to fraud. Why I would change it from citizen to non-citizen to fraud would make no sense. But just to be clear, I once had a belief that I was a citizen of the United States as defined here by United States Code. I no longer believe I am, because that definition says I'm a business entity, part of a corporation. So I will make them clear of what my understanding is and how I've derived that, to prove that I'm not doing fraud, to allow them to issue me another passport, where if they run that passport, what they're going to get back is essentially do not detain, lifetime concealed carry holder. That's been somewhat verified by folks and other cops who they've paid them to run the ID. Other folks say it's not a thing. I believe that it is. And I believe that they create a digital record for the cops. So when they look you up, they know what they can and can't do. Right. So they say lifetime concealed carry holder and do not detain, in order to not get themselves in litigation with a free man who knows the law, who's entitled to compensation if you interfere with his property and rights. You know, if they're not just going to put on there, this man's an American national, he's not a congressional citizen, you don't have jurisdiction to enforce these policies and codes on him. No, they just tell the dumb cops who don't care about knowing the law and can't barely read. They just tell them, don't detain this guy and expect him to have a gun on him lawfully. You can't do nothing about it. Because if not, right, we could get into some dangerous situations, as we've seen with Chase Allen and others, because these folks are all mistrained that we're all terrorist sovereign citizens and we're trying to misuse and abuse the system. And we're, shouldn't be allowed to do that, right? It's not fair. When in reality, we're using the system exactly as it's designed to secure our rights and uphold the law, and still allow these people to push their fraudulent contracts, some might say, without interfering with their slave business. I think that's as honorable and equitable as we could be, while also maintaining a middle ground. Because honestly, if you want to be clear, nothing short of having you all thrown in prison under U.S. code for deprivation of rights using color of law should suffice. If we were really being trustworthy and honorable and oriented toward justice and stopping you evil scum from doing what you're doing, we'd have you all in prison or hung according to the code. Now, I don't support that. I don't want any harm done to anybody, but that's what the code reads, like 20 years or death by hanging, firing squad, for folks who want to do tyranny and betrayal and want to sell out their country and their land and their people to profiteer and make money, enforcing policy instead of upholding the law and protecting people's rights while claiming you're keeping everyone safe. Yeah. There's 10 different ways you're violating U.S. code. I don't care if it's regular process and procedure day to day. That's the reality of it. So again, there should be no reason or problem why the rest of us can't have our rights upheld and the law upheld while you continue to force your fraudulent contracts on the rest of the consensual congressional citizen slaves who don't know the law and don't want to know the law. And if you try to tell them, they'll say, oh, I heard this sob sit rap before. It's right in the damn codes. It's in the Supreme Court decision. We're not just making this shit up. You just don't want to conceive of the reality we're experiencing here. It's too scary, right? It's too daunting to believe that everybody's been tricked and duped and deluded and deceived. And now we're in a hole and we have to come out of that by retraining ourselves and each other and these servants on who and what we all are and what we need to be doing versus what it's become. Yeah, it's a lot of fucking work, people. And again, many hands make light work. So the more folks create a channel, the more they go around and question the servants, hold them accountable. I'm going to start doing that again at some point as I'm feeling better. I don't call it auditing. I just call it taking an interest in my community and the forms of governance. And if we're going to be self-governing, then we have to do what's true and what's right, and also hold other people accountable, whether it's the citizen slave or policy enforcement. I don't interfere with their business. I don't want to take money out of anybody's pocket. But I just seem to believe that the more of this stuff happens, the worse it's going to get if it goes unchecked or misunderstood, right? And that's kind of been proven. All right. This woman, an American state national, shows us how to stand in court against unlawful arrests, felony charges, and fraudulent tax violations. And again, the Hopi prophecy says, in the time when the cobwebs are in the sky, the chemtrails, the women will do what the men will not. And this is a perfect example. So all of you inauthentic corporate beta males who go along to get along and just pay the fee and don't stand at court and aren't willing to push back or challenge your authorities anytime, any place, you should be ashamed of yourself that women have to go to court and even be involved in this, let alone do it better than you do, right? And again, that applies to all of us because it's all a test, a challenge, a practice. It's never a completed state of attainment. We all have fear when faced with having to take on this walk from time to time.
Talk with Ms. Lucia.
She is unrepresented, Your Honor.
Okay, you're not representing her.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we called a case of 22-239. Margaret Bruno, is it Lucia?
This is who you're calling right here, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear, I'm representing the, authorized representative for the legal fiction. And I cannot cross the bar I can't cross the bar, you know that. It's all about
I can hear you.
jurisdiction.
Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
All right.
It's not as sophisticated as my hearing aids, but I can hear you this time.
All right.
All right, I just want to be clear that when I was here for the arraignment, first off, I never had a first appearance. Within 24 hours, I was incarcerated for 13 days without a first appearance. Bond was set.
And that's true because you wouldn't sign the documents at the jail. Until you sign documents at the jail, you don't.
Where is that written that you have to sign anything? Because I couldn't find it. It just simply says within 24 hours, I would go before a judge. I had
You
felony
weren't properly
charges.
booked, so that's the way that was. But I'm not going to argue with that point. But go
Okay,
ahead.
well, I just want to get it on the record that I am here on a special appearance and I'm just the authorized representative for this birth certificate. It has been federally authenticated if you want to take a look at it. It has been certified by the state and federally authenticated. I am the owner of this SQQB. Do you understand what that means?
Not a clue.
Really? Okay. It means that I'm not in your jurisdiction. I stand on the land and soil. I'm under the public law.
Okay.
And I have a right to pass through service.
All right. So I take it you're representing yourself today.
No, I am presenting myself.
Okay. So you're not going to enter a plea today or work out negotiations or anything?
I'm not making any plea whatsoever. I have not consented to contract with this court in any way.
Okay.
I'm an American state national. I'm not a sovereign citizen. That was a hate crime under which I was arrested, and the arresting officer has since quit his job at the Jasper Police Department.
All right. Well, state we can.
I have a file here that I have one prepared for both the prosecutor and for you, Judge, if you'd like to take a look and go along with me on what I'd like to bring before the court. My goal is that this case get dismissed with prejudice before I walk out today.
Well, that's not going to happen, but we'll take a look at those files.
Okay, they're the same one for each of you.
We'll take them under review for you. Give me one. Give Miss Tiffany one she can take back and look it over. All right, well, here's what we're going to do today. I'll look this over for you.
This file is not completed. Let me explain. All the highlighted areas, I met with the clerk of court, Greg Godwin, and the areas that were in yellow here, I expected that he would be able to provide the information for me to complete these documents. I am not able to mail them until I can get them completed. He suggested that I talk with, is it John Durham, or who is it, Durant? Am I getting that correct, Tabitha?
That's Mr. Durrett, state attorney.
Durrett, okay. He suggested I should talk with him as far as getting this information completed. He said he wasn't able to complete the information. Otherwise, I can hire somebody to get this information for me. So if this case is not going to be submitted, but the first letter in here is a fair notice and warning letter. And it speaks to what the issues are here. First off, it was a false arrest because I do have a right to travel. No, and then also there is no contract. The application for a driver's license does not tell anybody that you are trading a God-given right for a privilege. There is no victim in this crime because I have a right to face an accuser. And there's nobody here that was harmed. Deprivation of due process, Your Honor. You denied me a first appearance, and I have not heard the charges because I am hard of hearing. I brought that to the attention of the court at the arraignment, and your comment was simply, I'm talking as loud as I can. Well, that doesn't do any good for somebody who has a disability, and you have a responsibility to me under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so I have issues with that. So up until, I still haven't really heard the charges. You know, when it started out, I was slammed with 7 felony charges, had a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights because they did a search and seizure of my vehicle. They tossed my car completely. He claims he found the phone in my car. He didn't. He took it out of my hand after shoving my arm. That was assault and battery. And then when I got into the police vehicle, my keys were in my pocket. He took them out of my pocket. All right, that again is assault and battery and also could be considered rape. Prosecutor Travis Munden did not act for 8 days. He allowed me to sit in jail for 8 days with felony charges hanging over my head, of which you put a $38,000 bond on me without my participation. Again, that was a violation or deprivation of due process. The felony charges were bogus. I'm an international notarial witness for the United States of America, unincorporated. I had those were the driver's license on my phone and birth certificates because I do remote notarization for people. I had a right to have that. I had it by permission of the people that sent it to me. The prosecutor, Dana Brady Giddens, she failed to act for 6 days. After, on July 1st, Travis transferred it from the felony side over to misdemeanors. She sat on it for 6 days. I sat in jail for 13 days, not even knowing what was going on. And it wasn't until after I got out of jail and I called her, and while I was on the phone, she goes, oh, here it is. She asked me what my name was, and she goes, oh, here it is, and she opened it while I was on the phone. So Travis sat on it for 7 days. Whatever happened to due process? Don't they have a responsibility to act timely? Because I know I do. All right. I was kidnapped. I was kidnapped and taken to a prisoner of war camp. I had no choice in this, and I'm an American. I'm an American state citizen. I stand above this court. I stand above this for-profit corporation. First time that I saw you, sir, was 44 days after my arrest. And again, my Americans with Disabilities Act rights were violated in that you made no accommodation at all for my not being able to hear you. So it's
Okay, Mitchell. So this is a perfect example of what she just said of why I disagree with her and others at certain times. Because they tend to cherry pick and choose when they're going to use policy and code to defend themselves. Quote unquote defend, which is to take away your ability to fend for yourself. So it's literally in the word. So again, try to use the context and nuance. I know it's difficult for you and many others. That I appreciate her and others standing for their God-given rights. I don't believe the way to do that to be the most honorable and good faith and effective is to cite code. Now you can correlate code to where everyone derives their understanding, right? Like I did earlier with this idea of I'm not a United States citizen because your code defines it as a business entity or an entity of a corporation. So I'm not citing their code for where I get my law or my understanding. I'm citing their code for how they've codified the language and what the understanding is from their side and why they can't misunderstand what I'm doing and why it matters, right? So we can correlate at times, but when she cites that she has American Disability Act rights as a state citizen, the presumption is still on some level a corporate activity, and that the corporation could extend you more rights than God can as a human being, right? And that somehow Americans under Disability Act playing, right, is somehow superior to God's law, right? So I just have some contentions with these folks. I just have some disagreements about how they practice and how they move forward. And I believe that's why a lot of them don't get great results, at least right off the bat, because they throw a whole bunch of extra stuff at the court and on paper that just doesn't need to be there. And when you start conflating public and private and jurisdictions, it just seems to make you less credible from their perspective. If you're going to do man on the land under God, so to speak, and common sense as foundational law, meaning no loss, injury, and harm, and no debt, then just stick to that. Listen, there must be some big mistake here, or you guys are like wanting to pay me a whole bunch to be at your venue. Either way, I'll be filing, the bill for the charges, right, or the charges that will lead to the bill, I guess, for me performing in this venue. But other than that, unless you want me to perform at your court or your private municipal corporate headquarters there, then yeah, just let's get down to who or what is on the other side, right? Who's accusing me? Where have I done wrong? Keep this as simple as possible. I would think that's best for all of us as much as possible. If you do that, whether they accept it or not, recognize it or not, it just makes you more credible and respectable in my eyes, and I think in their eyes. If they say, well, you don't need to know legalities or legal society or be a part of it or any of that, you're going back to an ancient law or rule of court. Bring forth the accuser. If you ain't got that, you ain't got nothing. And 95% of these cases don't. And the third party impartial magistrate is acting out of their judicial canon sort of parameters, because they're not supposed to be moving a case forward or even hearing anything or taking anything if we don't have the proper process and procedure met. And again, 9 out of 10 times that's the case. So, going to all these codes and statutes and ADA and U.S. Corporation Code for anything other than correlation to me is a mistake. You want to cite law, you cite God within you and what makes sense to you and what's right from wrong, and use logic, morals, and your ethics. And then it just becomes a non-versation about, well, that's the way you do it, and that's common law for you, and that may be based in common sense, but we have this belief and we have this way of doing things. And hey, that's great. In any society, really, it's kind of part of the ethic or a tenet, a maxim, if you will, of equity or ethics, that you got to let people come and go and live by their logic, morals, and ethics, or live by logic with their ethics as long as they're moral. How about that? It's a better way to phrase it, because you can't really have your own logic. But we can use logic to form the basis for our ethics to some extent. And if it's not immoral, meaning it doesn't cause any loss, injury, or harm, and we're not stealing from someone, then everyone's free to do as they please. And that's what potentially makes a free country's legal system or lawful system more desirable. So that everybody's free to pursue their happiness and property and do whatever they want, absent a certain criteria being present, right? Habeas corpus, corpus delicti. There's different ways that I understand that they put forth this idea of the body of the crime. So there has to be literally a body, either a dead body or somebody pointing and saying that person did wrong to me. If we don't have that, we can't court effectively and legitimately and voluntarily, because we're involved in something else here. We're involved in some other kind of venue.
As far as I know, I never did put in a plea. I have not pled in any way whatsoever. I have not consented. I have signed absolutely nothing. I signed no citations. I have had communication with Tabitha and Dana. We have been writing back and forth on our 72 rule of response, and And I can't get answers out of them. They keep telling, I ask for documentation, and all I get is no documents responsive, no documents responsive, over and over again. I asked her for her oath of office on Florida letterhead, nothing. I get a scrap of paper. I asked her for a signed contract on my side, I get a citation that's not signed. The citation wasn't even signed by the arresting officer, it's by somebody else, and it has comments in it that says I said something, and I would appreciate eye contact, sir. I don't appreciate being ignored by the court. So anyway, I didn't sign anything. I have not contracted with this court. I haven't contracted at all. And why? Because I don't need to. I'm not under these statutes, rules, regulations, codes, ordinances, mandates, and all the rest. I tried to explain that to the public defender here that you assigned to talk to me. And then basically everything out of his mouth came out right out of this hate crime document called Law Enforcement Guide to Sovereign Citizens. I'm not a Moor. I'm not a Waukesha Nation. I'm an American state citizen.
Okay.
To call somebody a sovereign citizen is slander. To put it in writing is libel. Sovereign is a king, somebody who is governing, self-governing. Citizen is somebody who works for another. It's an oxymoron. It's not even real, and yet law enforcement wants to act on that kind of foolishness. Even the public defender here believes in it. I'm a private living woman. My responsibility is to balance the accounts of the public, the public all caps name, and to keep the public charitable trust in balance. Roosevelt put us on an all debit system, and these credits have been stolen from the people. And all I'm trying to do is my responsibility here. So I'm planning to subrogate this. If you look at the second document, or maybe you already have, and you've seen the list of people.
This is my other issue, is these folks going into court and giving a dissertation on banking and all the rest of it when they weren't asked. Because all these people, they came upon this knowledge and it's like groundbreaking and earth shattering. It's like it changes their whole life, and then they presume everybody else cares and wants to hear it. They may not, and it's just not relevant. It doesn't matter. It's just so simple. It's 5 lines, and if they're not going to recognize that and address that, they're not going to recognize or address anything. And I guess it makes for a great 30-minute long YouTube clip, but it's not as effective and productive as it could be if we just simplify the shit out of it. Just take your fucking feelers and what you think you know right out of it and just stick to the facts. And if they're not going to address that and adhere to that, they're not going to care about Roosevelt and the debit credit system. And we talk about it here because it's interesting facts and there's history there and all the rest of it. The time for that is when the administrator says to you, who are you? You seem pretty intelligent, like you know what's going on here. Can we hear more about what you know? Then you go on your whole rant and ramble and tirade, right? But typically, if you do this at court, they're going to, because I'm just being honest with you. I try to be as honest and straightforward as I can be here. If this was my court, it's hard for me to visualize being one of these people and doing this. I do a takeoff of it here, right? But it's like, I really don't care. You're now in the court of P.T. Burnham. Greatest show is Earth. Please step forward. Let's get this out of the way. We're balancing the books here. Okay, so we're going to get down to the facts. Loss, injury, and harm, debt owed. Who are you? What are you? What are you about with? FDR and the banking system and the gold fringe flag and this and that. I don't give a fuck, bro. Doesn't matter to me. You have a belief just like everybody else here has a belief, and you're going to try to substantiate that with what you read somewhere. Let's get down to who you are, what you're going to do and not do today. Let's get down to what you did do. Let's get down to the facts. See? You simplify it for everybody. They've heard it all before, or they haven't, and they don't care to, and you're wasting their time, and it's disjointed, and it just doesn't matter. But again, this woman I'm saying that like in general, this woman doesn't get any critique from me because she's fucking got more balls than the majority of these males out here. So I really can't. She's big mama at this point. If she wants to get up and do an hour on whatever, basically do a broadcast at court, I just, whatever, cool. But again, for the I guess efficacy or the effectiveness rather of this presentment, I'm being very hypercritical. Because we could just get down to 3 to 5 lines and put the correspondence and the claim on paper and simplify this. You know, if they want more clarity and more understanding, they'll ask you, hey, we're kind of interested in your paperwork and what you're doing and what you know. Could you tell us some more about this whole sovereign citizen mumbo jumbo? And we can do the broadcast at court. But I don't think it's necessary. And I think that most courts are going to try to hurry you along because they're there to do banking and revenue and balance the books. And they want to get to lunch. They got a roach coach outside that they want to get to, right? They got some goofy broad, Debbie in accounting, who they want to bang tonight, you know, or vice versa. You know, Bill over at public relations. They got more important, quote unquote, things to do than sit here and listen to you folks' theories on how the world works. When we could just simplify the shit out of this and go on with the rest of our lives.
People I will send it to. Governor DeSantis has been involved in my case.
Here we go with
Letter
Governor
here that was
DeSantis.
sent to him. If you would like to see that, let's see, maybe it's in one of the other files. Anyway, he has been involved in this as well because he is also part of the problem here in that he is not assisting the Americans within this state to be safe from the harm that is being caused by this system, by the law enforcement officers and deputies who are not educated as to who we are. I had sat down, I had noticed both the police chief and the sheriff on 2 different occasions. They have my fee schedule as to what I'll be charging when this is all over and I have to come back and have my my rights restored and my property restored. My car was towed from in front of the police station. That's where I was when all this happened. I was in talking to Chief Rickerson. I went in and I noticed both the chief and the sheriff, the clerk of court, and the property appraiser when I got here back in March, that I was an American state citizen and I'm not a U.S. citizen. They were both noticed. They've both been noticed twice. And along with that was the fee schedule of what I charge when my rights are violated. I was talking with the police chief for the 4th time. We have sat down and had 4 conversations on how we educate the officers to know the difference so people are not harmed on the side of the road. I wasn't even on the side of the road. I was parked in front of the police station when all this went down. I wasn't even in my car. This officer got in my face back in April and he stood there. Okay, I was meeting with the police chief, Chief Rickerson. At that time, he was an interim police chief. And this officer barged into our discussion and got in my face and started spitting on me with his saliva. He was like this close to me, yelling at me, telling me, I'm a police officer for 25 years and I've dealt with plenty of people like you. And he went on and on and on, okay? No, he hasn't dealt with anybody like me because I know my rights. And I've studied this. Why? Because you could not get through the 2020 election and not know that there's something seriously wrong with this country. And I have seen this coming for many, many years. I studied it with my husband. My husband passed back in 2010. In July of 2016, I read an article that the Pope had relinquished our Social Security accounts to the U.S. Treasury, and I knew something had changed, something was up, and I went looking. And when I went looking, I found at least 20 organizations trying to help people come out of slavery, come out of this U.S. citizen slavery. You're a slave to the British Crown, which is the administrative arm, to the Pope, which is the financial arm, and to Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, which is the military arm of the one world government. Well, I don't go with that because I serve a king. I serve the Almighty King. That is who I am. I am a child of the King. I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm a child of the King, and I have rights that were given to me, sovereign rights given to me by my Creator. And I live by the Bible. I don't live by any kind of religion, sir. I read the Bible cover to cover, and I do what it says. And when it says that there are 2 commandments in the New Testament that Jesus, or Yeshua, I prefer to call him by his Hebrew name, the 2 commandments, to love God above all things and to love your neighbor as yourself, I live by that. But that's a summary of the 10 commandments that are in the Old Testament, Exodus 20. And the first 5 commandments are how you love your Creator. And the second 5 commandments is how you love your neighbor. And I live by that, sir. And this officer had to break several of those commandments to put me into this system. He had to lie, and he had to steal my property. And if this is the system that this government or this for-profit corporation is trying to force on the people, then you guys should all be ashamed of yourself. I am asking, I'm not asking, I am demanding. See, a sovereign does not motion the court. A sovereign demands. I am demanding that this case be dismissed with prejudice because I'm going down for the count. I'll take whatever punishment you give me. And I think my 13 days in jail without signing anything, just for comfort, should give you an idea of the fact that I finish what I start. I went into that jail, Your Honor. I was quite a surprise. I wasn't prepared for it. If it hadn't been that I took a couple in who were homeless, I probably would have ended up going home to a dead dog in a house full of crap. But that gentleman, the people that I took in who were homeless, called my girlfriend and said she didn't come home last night. Well, my girlfriend knew that I was on my way to the post office in Live Oak, and she knew I was going to stop by and talk to the sheriff. So first call she made was to the Suwannee County Jail. Second call was to the Hamilton County Jail, and she found me. I was sitting in jail. I've never been in trouble with the law before. Do you know what it's like for a 73-year-old woman to have to stand there and take her underwear off and stand in front of somebody else? That was so humiliating. You want to talk about rights? Let's just talk about basic humanity here. And I was given an orange swimsuit. I don't look good in orange at all. I have to bring some humor so I can stop crying. I wore that jumpsuit in my underwear for 13 straight days because I wouldn't sign your paperwork, because I would not come in contact with this corporation, this for-profit corporation. You're not a government, let's be honest. Because I wouldn't come in contact with you, I suffered extremely. I was 3 days in a row. I asked for a sweatshirt. I was freezing. You got a swamp cooler in that jail. It's loud and it's cold. And every guard was wearing a jacket, and every inmate had a sweatshirt except for me. 3 days I asked for a sweatshirt. On the fourth day, when I asked, the guard said, "You don't sign out paperwork, you don't get nothing." Yeah, that's real sweet. There's a camera right above the toilet. Yeah, that's real sweet. You're sleeping on a steel bed. When I went and signed their paperwork, they gave me a mattress where the fabric was touching fabric. I have a 9-inch spread, thumb to little finger. And I can tell you that the padding of that mattress lay within a lump, 12 inches by 30 inches. The very first day in holding, I had a bruise on my tailbone sitting on a steel bed. You know, I'm used to a mattress, and I have a memory foam topper on top of it. I like it sweet. I went without drinking water for 13 days. I drink on average almost a gallon a day. My dog and I consume a gallon a day. You get coffee in the morning, you get Kool-Aid for lunch and dinner, and you get absolutely no water. And the only water coming out of the faucet in the bathroom is hot water. Okay, this is inhumane. I was tortured for my faith. Why would I say that? Because according to Revelation 18:4, it says, "Come out of her, my people." I am one of his people. And that Revelation 18 is all about Babylon. And yes, I did the paperwork to come out of this Babylonian system. Matthew 6:24 says, "I can't serve two masters." Well, who gets the taxes? Who gets the first tithe? The government grabs it right out of your paycheck. You don't have a choice. Steals it right from God. We don't get to give God our first fruits. I don't know what your faith is, but that's my faith. I serve the mighty Creator. It was very boring in there, and they had some books, and I was reading on average 400-page novels every single day. But on the 5th day, the guards came in and took all the books out, so I had nothing I could read. And then the girls gave me some paper. I had 3 sheets of paper. I started writing and writing and writing, front and back, as small as I could. And when I ran out of those 3 sheets of paper, the girls in the cell on the other side started giving me paper. Why? Because I befriended them. We talked about our Savior. We talked about why we were there. I wasn't preaching. I don't preach. But I shared with them that, you know, they got themselves in trouble. And the first thing they need to do is straighten out their lives and get right with their Creator. Because if they can do that, the rest will fall in place. And that's what I spent those 13 days doing. Trying to be a big sis or a mom to those other girls. who have lost their way along the way. 5 of the girls in that prison or jail recommitted their lives to God while I was there. And I'm very happy for them, and I continue to pray for them. I want you to know, sir, that I pray for you also. I pray for every one of you, because I pray that the Father will take the veil off your eyes so you can see what's really going on here. I don't know what you know. I have no idea what you know, but I know exactly how it works, and I know about the security bond, and I know how you have hit my SQB trust, and that's what this subrogation is of that bond. Because I'll be filling out all the IRS forms. If this case is not dismissed with prejudice today, or I'll give you 3 days as it says in the document, if it's not dismissed with prejudice, then what I plan to do is fill out these IRS forms and make sure that the account that I am responsible for, I, the private woman, is responsible for the accounting of the public woman, or the all caps name that y'all have fraudulently created. And I mean, when I say you all, take it professionally. You obviously weren't there when I was born. But anyway, the point is, sir, that I do feel the responsibility now that I understand how all of this works, that it's my job to apply those credits to the debits. It's my job to make sure that those funds are not taken multiple times or above and beyond what's necessary. And so that's what this subrogation document is all about. I want you to pay attention, sir, to that list on this document of the people that the distribution list. You see, I have notified the state's attorney. I came out of the system back in April of 2018. And when I moved to Hamilton, I was in Jacksonville at the time. When I moved to Hamilton, I redid my paperwork. So on the public record in this county, I have 2 filings with all my paperwork showing that I am an American, I'm not a U.S. citizen. I have an act of expatriation. I have a deed of reconveyance. I have a cancellation of all power of attorney. I have an assumed names that gives me a copyright and a registration on all of my names.
Okay,
You
Mr.
can't
Chair.
make money on my names. And when you'll notice on this list here,
Yeah.
the state's attorney the state's attorney, the attorney general were all notified back in 2018 I'm American. Why they didn't notify y'all, I don't know. But why I'm being persecuted, I don't appreciate.
Okay.
On this list here, because you have deprived me of my rights, I've also included the Judicial Qualification Commission as well as others. So I yield.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your commenting. So what we'll do is, what I'm gonna do right now is continue to October 18th, see what's.
I can't do that, sir. I will be at the Feast of Tabernacles from the 1st of Tishri, which is September 26th until, let me think, what is it, 9 plus 8, 18. Around the 20th of October is the Feast of Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacles. I'll be out of town for that, celebrating with about 300 believers.
What about November 15th?
Well, I mean, I don't plan to attend any more trials here. This is my last one.
Okay.
I'm hoping that you will do the right thing here and that the state's attorney will do that. Tapathy here, she has not proven jurisdiction. Once I
here's what we're gonna do.
consent,
Your
it is her
case is-
job to prove jurisdiction.
Your case is continued to November 15th. We're gonna take everything you said under consideration.
Okay?
I'll look at your papers. State attorney will look at them. And, on or before November 15th, we'll come to some conclusion. How about
I
that?
hope to get a letter from you. I will continue to get the information here. Is it Durrett, did you say?
Mr. Durrett.
I will, I'll get in touch with him. Greg was telling me, and I know Greg personally, Greg was telling me that, all he does is provide you with a court case number. Somebody is creating a security on this. That's who I need to talk to. So if you know, or you can find out, those highlighted areas in these documents, as soon as I can get that information and fill it in, then the formal documents will be sent. I hope to hear from you before that, Tabitha.
Ma'am, I do not know who creates the security.
Okay, Ms. Lucia, I appreciate your comments and everything, and have a good, wherever you're going in October, wherever that is.
Feast of Tabernacles, it's
Yeah,
in
feast.
Leviticus 23.
Okay.
I'd also like to mention, if you have any influence at all with the sheriff, ask him to go into that jail and find out what's really going on. It's deplorable.
Okay.
It's a disgrace.
I'll mention it to him.
Thank you.
I will. All right, well, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, I'm going to leave it there. It could be argued if you show up and you argue with these people
and you go back and forth and you address the prosecutor who's not sworn in and, you know, under the cover of some state actor title, that you're involved after a certain point. So it's a slippery slope. It could be argued. Just put everything on paper. Give them the notice. You know, if you have to, maybe a few points of clarification. But yeah, if there's no one on the other side and they're not going to swear in, then no one's there. It doesn't exist. You know, and that's where a lot of these courts are ridiculous as well, because how is the magistrate, who's moving this case, right? It's just like, instead of 20 minutes of who's moving the case? Could someone please point to the man or woman right now who's moving this case? Because it shouldn't be the third party impartial magistrate. If the prosecutor's a man or woman, they have a claim, well, then let them swear in and testify. If not, we have a non-entity attempting to move the case, and we have a third party impartial magistrate who's complicit, which is a violation of due process, if you want to use the term violation. Interference with proper process and procedure, at least as far as I understand it. So, yeah, the best case scenario is to just, with your claim or lack thereof, right, very limited kind of sort of application, get yourself to the point where prosecutors on pretty much in any court on this land are not going to want to even speak or move the court, because they're going to wind up having to hold the liability of doing fraud and deception. But I appreciate her. I think that she's doing the right thing the best she knows how, like we all are. And I guess we're all learning, and there are no experts here. Nobody has all the answers, presuming we even have some. We just may have answers for ourselves on what we're going to do and not do. And that may be enough, right? At least over a long enough period. You know, being recognized and making a change. So, all right, final words, Ace. Anybody else, if you got it? If not, I'm going to check out back who knows when.
All right,
I'm
big
still
move.
on the mend, so if I'm not here, that's pretty much why. I'm just kind of taking time for myself and trying to feel better and yeah, be a bit more productive in other ways.
Why not? Well, I'll just keep you. I'll just keep you up on the updates on this. All right. All right, big dog. Have a good one. Later, man.
We'll see you later. All right, folks. Back who knows when. Blessings to all, of course. One day at a time. Paul and Fuck Wittable on the way out. Say goodnight to the bad guy. Bye. I'm somebody who I've not complied. I've not cooperated. I've been arrested over and over again, right? I've had to go to court without an attorney, with no credentials, and stand on what I believe to be the word of God and the truth. And I've got the result. Tends to be when I meet people who talk about this what I consider to be false ideology of patriotism they've been uploaded with. Usually these are the same folks who tell me we're very courageous, we want to save the children, we're going to be idols and heroes, but they're not willing to sacrifice and go to jail and be activists and potentially have to sacrifice and give everything up to be given everything back. You all live in a matrix reality world where law comes from a contract, social contract. As far as I perceive it, God makes law, and the contract is a trust in God. That's why it's in God we trust. Law is not the same as statute, policy, and code, and law doesn't come about because we made some social pact and agreement. This is precisely my point. This clarifies the fundamental difference between us. And these folks are within an illusion, within an illusion, within an illusion, and can't recognize the illusion of self and creation for what it is, because it seems too far out and too crazy to them to be real.
We need to give up certain rights for the greater good of the whole, because that's what a communal society does. That's what the Constitution is. We give up certain rights in order to be able to live peacefully amongst a communal society.
So he can't even fundamentally determine what a right is, just in the sense of right action, right? If there's rights, then there's wrongs. So in his world, not having a connection to God / conscience locally, that's a good term for the clinical folks, conscience. Him and others being conscienceless beings have to always refer to paperwork and don't know the difference objectively between right and wrong. And that's why they can't figure out what God is or have the experience of God or be trusting with equity and faith, right? They don't know common sense. They don't know the common law because they think law comes from us all sitting around together and making agreements that we had a right yesterday to kill and rape, but today we're going to give up that right. Because in this new society, raping and killing is not wrong. It's either right or it's wrong. It's either true or it's false. Us laying eyes on it doesn't necessarily, or agreeing to it, change what is. And this is the fundamental difference between us. I work with what is, even if it can't be shown, right? And I talk to cause and effect, and I reverse engineer that. And this is why I can't debate with or get through to these folks who can't consider this idea of a godly experience or a universal order.
You must give up certain rights, your right to kill, or your right to assault, or your right to steal, or your assault, or your right to rape.
He did even more. See, they say I lie and I bullshit here. I only said 2. He gave 5 examples of wrong behaviors he thinks we naturally have a right to do.
Tell me your plea, I'm a really big deal, you must listen to me. As you can see, I'm totally real, you can tell it's true, cause I'm a really big deal. Oopie-loo, Scooby-Doo-ba-Doo-ba-ba-ba-boo. You there, Subset, what's your plea? If you're really, really good, I might lessen the fee. You don't have a choice, you're in my court, and you better hurry up, my temper is short. Oopie-loo, Scooby-Doo-ba-Doo-ba-ba-ba-boo. Silly self-sit, when you're gonna see the only option you got is to tell me your plea. As the people I represent society, you're criminal scum, now listen to me. Oopie-loo, Scooby-Doo-ba-Doo-ba-ba-ba-boo. Listen to me.
I forgot that the song is. I've done that before too. I forgot that the song is a clip, and that the other clips cut that one off. All right, from the top.
Stand me up, court's in session. Where's the defendant? Start the confession. Hey there, Subset, tell me your plea. I'm a really big deal, you must listen to me. As you can see, I'm totally real, you can tell it's true, cause I'm a really big deal. Oopie-loo, Scooby-Doo-ba-Doo-ba-ba-ba-boo. You there, Subset, what's your plea? If you're really, really good, I might lessen the fee. You don't have a choice, you're in my court, and you better hurry up, my temper is short. Oopie-loo, Scooby-Doo-ba-Doo-ba-ba-ba-boo. Silly self-sit, when you're gonna see the only option you got is to tell me your plea. As the people I represent society, you're criminal scum, now listen to me. Oopie-loo, Scooby-Doo-ba-Doo-ba-ba-ba-boo. Oh, stand me up, this man is unsafe. Slave him up quick before he gets away. Wait, hold on now, what do you mean fiction? Your Honor, I bet he's got a drug addiction. He wants to challenge jurisdiction. Oopie-doo, Scooby-Doo-ba-Doo-ba-ba-ba-boo. Your Honor, I'm thinking about doing a no-load. Dismiss the case, or maybe call it a no-show. Please hurry up if you've got any tricks. This must be how Subsets get their kicks. We don't got a choice, we gotta let him go before he gets fees and realizes it's his show. If he can make a claim, then he can't make me pay. It's clear now these sadists think this is foreplay. Oopie-loo, Scooby-Doo-ba-Doo-ba-ba-ba-boo.
Daddy's home. Daddy's here. It's okay.